Winchester, welcome to the September 25th Planning Board meeting. The two big things on our agenda this evening are we're having a hearing on a project for 654 Main Street, and I'm sure you'll all stick around after that when we review our town fall meeting articles. So I hope to see you for the next 3 hours.
We know how
keep
to,
us company. We fall asleep at the end.
I know. We do know how to have fun, don't we?
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, our town planner is otherwise occupied this evening and will not be with us, so it's up to me to maintain order and keep us going. So that's pretty much it for opening comments. So I'm going to have a gavel. We're now opening into our public hearing on 654 Main Street.
Isn't there a special vote? I can't, it's been a while.
Pardon?
Isn't there, Betsy, do you remember? Isn't there a special,
We need a roll call?
Yeah.
Select board never does that when they open hearings.
this is a different
Well-
kind of hearing?
I don't know, we always have.
Okay, well, let's do a roll call. So do I have a motion to open the hearing?
So moved?
And second?
Second. Let's go around.
Aye.
Aye? Aye. Okay, we have 4 ayes, no nays. We are open. So let me set the rules of the hearing. We do actually have, unfortunately, I don't have one to put up there. Here are the rules and procedures. The applicant will have, I think we've agreed upon 15 minutes to present the project. Then, I don't know, I don't believe we have an opponent, but we certainly have a lot of people who wish to speak. I did that just to confuse you, Heather. Did you actually get to your seat?
No.
Okay,
We can arrange that.
yeah.
They have you seated, that is.
The planning board will then ask questions of the applicant for about 15 minutes, no more than 15 minutes. After that, we will review correspondence from the town engineer and other departments. We have comments from the Central Business District, what does the RS stand for?
Subcommittee, it's a review subcommittee. Yeah, I never liked that, but that's what it is.
CRS, and then we will entertain questions and comments from the audience. And we're going to ask people to come forward if that's possible. If it's not possible, we'll hand you a microphone. We want you to come forward, state your name, where you live, and then we'll have your comments. And we have a timer, so we're going to try to keep this meeting on time. We have 55 minutes for this. So if someone makes a comment, and if someone has already made your comment, please, we'd just like to keep it one expression of a comment. That's really poorly said, I'm sorry. To keep things moving, if someone's already made your comment, please, if you feel strongly about it, you can email it, but we want to make sure that everyone who has a new comment gets heard.
Right. Or they can say, I agree with that.
Or you can simply say.
Yeah, I think we want a sense of the meeting.
But we are always open to, and just I want to start this off, you can always send comments to planningboard@winchester.us. The entire planning board and the town planner gets that, and those go into the public record. So if there isn't time for you to make your voice heard this evening, by all means, send it there. So I wanted to call one thing in attention, and that is we have, when we received the packet, I'm trying to find the meetings. When we received the packet originally, it was missing a few things, and I want to go through and make sure that we have a complete application this evening. So the town planner has he's written up some notes for us on here. And the two things that we know that were missing prior to this evening was the existing conditions plan was not stamped by a registered land surveyor. That has been ameliorated. There is a stormwater management and flood mitigation plan, which we were provided yesterday. And it's rather unusual that we are actually having a hearing on a proposal where we only got a major component the day before the meeting, so that is unfortunate and will not happen again. So the one thing that we still believe is missing is a utilities plan. And so if Mr. Mulhern, you want to come forward and address that?
The utility plan is,
Sorry, could you have a seat, speak to the mic? We need to get everyone out in TV land.
Let them know who you are.
Let them know who you are.
Christopher Mulhern, Harrison Mulhern Architects. The utility plan was included in the civil package, which was delivered to you yesterday.
Okay.
It's sheet C.3, I believe, or C.4.
Okay, that, I do not have the, is that in there?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know if we have the updated package.
No, because you got these last time.
Right, but there is a package here that Brian dropped off this evening. Is it your utilities? What was it?
C.4.
C.4. I'll let you read that.
I don't think it'll affect this. I think we should keep moving.
Beg your pardon?
Oh, I don't think it'll affect what we're doing
I
right
just wanted
now.
to
But
make
we gotta
sure.
make sure we have a complete package. We're not
And
gonna
if we don't have a complete package, one of the options is so I want to make sure. I know that we have a note from engineering saying that essentially as far as they're concerned, it's complete, but this was a question we had. That is a proposed utilities plan, so C4 is there. Okay, so at this point, let me pass the control. This is going to be interesting, I'll leave you alone. Where did it go? I shrunk it down, so it's going to...
I've closed this.
Yep, you can close that, and there you are right there. It's already open somewhere, but go right ahead. And so if each of the proponents could please identify themselves.
Oh,
Mr.
start the
Mulhern
call.
already has.
Mark Vaughn, attorney in Green Room Law Scene, representing the applicant.
Okay,
Scott Seaver, the applicant.
okay, and I'm going to start.
Technically, it's 5, isn't it, or 10, with an extension at our pleasure?
Right, the presentation is 10 minutes maximum with possibility of an extension. So if the board is okay with a 15-minute, but since the applicant has a 30-minute extension, I'd ask them to kind of condense it because we really want to get public input.
Right.
Okay, good.
So here's our new technology, circa 1950.
Hey.
So there you go.
Whatever works.
Oh, we're supposed to have people sign in, too.
I
Yes.
don't have a sign-in sheet, unfortunately. So if someone wants to come up with a sign-in sheet and circulate it, that would be great. Oh, I have a clipboard.
Does anybody have a piece of paper? That's all you need. Perfect.
Okay, please begin.
Just-
Okay, I'm gonna have to go quite quickly. This presentation runs about 30 minutes, so I'm gonna have to cut out a few things and go as fast as I can. The first thing I want to do is to give you a quick tour of the locus of the project. I'm sure you all know where it is. The topography of this site is a hill coming up behind Fells Hardware on Vine Street, leading up to this big bluff that is on the east side of Wedge Pond. A large amount of this has been excavated at the location of our project. Coming up Main Street, on the left-hand side, on the west side, there's a 3-story mixed-use building. And then on the other side, there's a 3-story brick office building with a sloped metal roof at the 3rd floor. Adjacent to the site at the corner of Main and Elmwood is this 1-story building. This started out as an automobile dealership and now has a liquor store and an accounting office in it. Across the street are 2 of the 3 gas stations in the center. This is Fells itself. Immediately beyond Fells, on the corner of Main and Vine on the north corner, is this 4-story condominium building. This building is pretty much devoid of any ornamentation or architectural detail. It has an open garage at the ground level. It's set back about 15 feet. It has these mature trees and fencing that shield it from Main Street. And across the street from that is the Savings Bank, also 3 stories sandwiched between the gas stations. Going up Vine Street, on the left-hand side is number 63 Vine. That's part of our site. We're going to come back to that. Across from 63 is the 4-story condominium. Beyond the 4-story portion is the 2-story portion, also part of the condominium in brick with a metal, or actually an asphalt shingle roof. Heading on up the hill, things get to be more normal and more residential with this two-story, single-family, followed by a two-family rental beyond that. This is next door to 63 Vine. This is the garage of number 51. 51 is a 2.5-story colonial, which is oriented east and west with the front doors facing to the west. The back of this building backs up on the open portion of the Fells site. Next door to 51 is this multifamily. This also backs up on the Fells site. This is a view from the driveway of the multifamily. Looking back over the site, you can see that the grade relationship is quite steep. We are up about 20 feet above the Fells site at this point. This block ends with this 4-story brick and concrete block apartment building. Going around the block onto Elmwood, this is the view looking north towards the site. The right side is the back of the liquor store. The left side is a construction site. We're in the process of building a 3-story brick condominium building with a garage underneath. They've just gotten this going. The first step is to build a deep foundation to stabilize the block brick site. It's a stone retaining wall at the back of the site. This slide shows the relationship between the two sites. Here's the fence that demarks the Fells site on the right from the construction site on the left. You can see this tall wall is sloping down. The multifamily is about 15 feet behind that wall. The wall carries on onto the Fells site. It's about 13.5 feet high at the southwest corner. It tapers down, follows the original ground level, and tapers down as it goes around to the east behind number 51. This storage is part of Fells. This is the view down Elmwood looking east. You can see there's a loading door in the back side of the liquor store here on the right-hand side and the Citgo station beyond. This is a section of the firm map, which is the flood insurance rate map. This defines the 100-year flood boundary for Middlesex County. So the polka dotted area is what's called Zone AE. This is the floodplain of the Aberjona River. You can see here's our site. This line is the 100-year flood boundary. So the town engineering office, working with VHB, who's their consultant, has set the elevation of the 100-year flood across our site at 23.60 feet. That's the red line that you see here. That's the 23.60 feet topo. So everything down the sheet from that part that's colored in blue is below the 100-year flood elevation in the floodplain. Everything that's left open is above. This is 63 Vine. 63 Vine, as you can see, this is part of the zoning bylaw. This is map 7.3.4. And you can see that 63 is highlighted in red. It's designated as a historic resource in this district. It's an outlier in my view because it's outside of the boundary of the National Historic District as established for the center. The most recent research on this house, which was conducted and finished in May of this year, dates the house between 1853 and 1860. It was probably built on spec as part of the boom that followed the construction of the Boston and Lowell Railroad in this watershed, and that was about 1835. In 1927, the house was moved from 650 Main Street, where it was originally constructed, and rotated to face onto Vine Street. Somewhere along the way, it was converted from a single family to a two-family, with the second unit having access up the back by way of the back stair. Over the years, aluminum siding has been added to the house, replacement windows have been installed, a small pressure-treated wood porch has been put on the front, new porches have been put on the rear, new stairs have been put on the rear, and plastic shutters have been added to the house. Most of the original decorative elements have been stripped away in the process. For the last 10 years, this building has been used by Fells for storage and for their screen business. This slide shows the foundation that was built in 1927, concrete and concrete block. It also shows a number of screw jacks which have been installed by Fells to keep the back of the building from collapsing. Since it's been in the storage use with Fells, the maintenance has been let go to a certain extent.
That's right.
This is the current condition of the attic. The building is not leaking now, but there's significant previous water damage throughout. The domestic water's been turned off for several years. At some point, the fireplaces inside the house were blocked up and a steam heating system was installed. What little interior detail survives appears to be rather sparse and stripped down. Every historic property can be restored to useful life with enough money. In this case, there's very little of the original fabric left. Most of the alterations done over the years have to be undone to make the structure usable for any use besides the present one. The question is here, as always, is whether the investment will be worth it. My client does not think so and would like to demolish this house. The regulations in the CBD, particularly paragraph 5.11, provide a procedure for cases like this. Our goal tonight is to provide clear and convincing evidence that A, the beneficial aspects of this project outweigh the negative impact of losing this significant structure, and B, that the project overall achieves compatibility with the historic context of the CBD. So, let me just take you through the project plans right quickly. I'm running out of time already. But here's a site plan. Main Street's down, Elmwood on the left, Vine on the right. This is the site development plan for the project. The project is 32 residential units on 4 levels over retail and parking. The building is L-shaped in plan with a 5-story wing along Main Street, that's here, and a 4-story wing along Elmwood, that's here. The residential lobby is located at the join between the 2 wings at this point. The site access is provided by way of a curb cut off of Vine Street at this location here. It leads into the site into 2 garages that are under the 2 wings of the building. There are 7 surface parking spaces here, shielded by a wall and planting. The west end of the site up here is an open area. This is outside space. It's located at the 2nd floor level of the building. The ground floor plan looks like this. The area outlined in red is the Fells hardware store. This is the basement that's under the Fells store. This has got utilities for the residential part of the building and storage for the hardware store. This will be built watertight because it's below the flood elevation. The area on the right of the plan on the Main Street frontage is a garage. It houses 8 cars and 10 bicycles. This footprint is also the flood storage footprint. So it will have openings at grade where these red arrows are to allow flood water to flow into the space and will be graded to provide compensating storage for the flood storage which would be lost by the construction of the building. The rear wing, the Elmwood wing, is also a garage. This has 14 cars, and as you can see here, it extends back almost to the rear property line. Both garage doors will be signal controlled for one-way traffic. Here's the residential lobby at the corner. It has access from Main Street, Elm Street, and from the garage. Here's the 2nd floor plan. You can see that in the Main Street wing, there are 5 residential units. The Elmwood wing has 4 residential units. This has also access to the exterior rear area, the so-called pocket park. This is a public space. This is the landscape plan for it. Stair and path here leads up from Elmwood Avenue into this space. This area, the dashed line, is the footprint of the garage below. So this is a green roof on top of the garage. It has, you can see a seating area here with some tables and chairs. It has some large planters on top of the garage. The balance of the footprint on top of the garage is lawn. The area between the garage and the property line, as you can see here, will be heavily planted, and this whole area will be graded and sloped so that it starts at a high point here that matches the original grade and slopes gently down to Elmwood Avenue over here. The third and fourth floors of the building are essentially the same. They have 9 units per floor. The fifth floor has 5 units and an outdoor deck for the use of the residents. This is the deck plan. So, getting to the exterior of the building, this is the view from the south. Bell's Hardware is on grade here, with the residential entrance tucked back where the 654 sign is facing towards Main Street. The base of the building is brick masonry with precast accents. The mid-band of the building, finishing off at that third floor level that matches up with its neighbors, it's also brick with precast accents. The top of the building is lap siding with traditional trim under a mansard roof. The volume of the building is broken down with the tower elements, one for the residential entrance and one here on the corner of Main and Vine Streets. The facade is further broken down by these bay elements which punctuate the living rooms of the units. The Elmwood wing going back here is also accented with projecting bays. Here's the Main Street elevation. You can see the extent of the retail frontage here, and then the garage bit here with the openings for the floodwater gate underneath. You can see the rhythm of the bays and towers here, and the double hung windows which are throughout the project. The bay and tower elements are situated to align with the living rooms in the plan of the units. So here they have balconies and French doors that allow the living rooms to open. In this corner tower, they have triple windows and transoms, with these windows being joined in a 2-story pattern to accentuate the corner element. This is the Vine Street elevation. You can see the masonry finish wraps around, and there's a bay element with the French balconies. This is the Elmwood wing in the background with 2 projected bays. You can see the pergola up on top. This is the Elmwood elevation with the retail turning the corner and the residential entrance, the Elmwood wing towards the west. Here's the massing from the overhead. You can see the awnings around the retail frontage, the residential entrance here, the pocket park tucked up in here. This is a 4-story element with 1 floor completely buried at the rear, so it reads as 3, and then 5 stories at the street. These are the standards for site plan review in the bylaw. I want to just take these one by one for 2 seconds. Access,
No,
so that's,
Sorry, yep. We will be going through that.
I'd like to comment on it if we have 5 minutes.
No, I think because we have such a crowded audience, I'd like to, we're going to be going through those, and then we will ask you questions as appropriate as we go through those for the review. Right now,
we should leave. Unless-
well, right now we have 15 minutes to ask the applicant questions, unless there is, yes, why don't we do that? So why don't we go around the board? Anyone want to start?
I'd rather use the time to let people speak personally. I'll pass.
Does anyone else want to wait until the end then? We will have time.
I think I'd prefer to
To
myself.
wait at the end?
Yeah.
I have questions, but
Isn't there supposed to be time for an opposition presentation?
There is some
comments?
time. I don't know when I asked whether there was one earlier, no
Well,
one said.
there may be an individual who's willing to speak. It's certainly, this is a quasi-judicial, that's why there's room in the regs for an opposition voice.
Right.
I do have a question regarding,
But that's
actually,
out of, what's the order?
The order is the opposition,
Right,
someone who is opposed to this project could come up and speak.
right.
Or in favor.
No,
No,
actually,
no, it's
the way it works is you're an applicant, and then we get an opponent. And after the opponent, we ask you questions,
Right,
then we review correspondence, and then we open it up to the audience.
right.
And these apparently have been around since 2004, so
Right.
this is not new, maybe news. But if there is someone who wishes to step forward and...
Then they should leave, so
Yes,
yeah.
yes, so we all clear the decks here, please, and then,
Is anyone else talking?
Yeah, it's intimidating, I know.
I'm,
sure.
I know Lucy wants to talk.
Really, we don't bite.
So I just want to ask, how many people are planning on rising in opposition? We have a total of, an equal amount of time, a total of 15 minutes for that. Wow.
10 maybe?
Well, each of you will get like
Yes.
2 minutes or 3 minutes, just so we can factor through these. Okay, so 3 minutes.
Okay.
And if you could state your name and,
My name is Mary Sue Stevens. I'm a resident of 44 Vine Street, a single-family home. Louder. My name is Mary Sue Stevens. I am a resident at 44 Vine Street, a single-family home. My concerns are the traffic flow at the base of Vine Street with 666 Main Street, exiting and entering on Vine Street. I would object to this new, I love the building, by the way, I'm not objecting to the building, it's the traffic flow. It's very difficult to get out of the end of that street as it is. There are many pedestrians, children going to school, people running to the train that cross that, it's a very small street. So with cars at the new building, entering and exiting also on Vine, especially in the winter time, it doesn't get plowed very well, whatever, that's beside the point, but it is a concern. And I wondered if there could be an exit on Elmwood, that it could be entered on Vine, exited on Elmwood. And the other concern I have is just parking in general on Vine Street, where
Yeah.
there is no limit to
That's right.
parking, and people park for weeks at a time, never move their car. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle McCarthy. I have looked at this project extensively. They were in front of us, some of us on the Historic Commission. And so I just wanted to say that I was disappointed about 63 Vine, the historic building. I really hope that the planning board can look to towns like Concord and Lexington and even Bedford, where we work to preserve the historic buildings. And I think that new construction is wonderful. I have nothing against new construction in this location. I think it's a great, perfect spot for it. Just for the record, I think it's extremely high, and the fact that it's right up onto the street. On the left-hand side, there seems to be no sidewalk at all. I just think that it's personally gigantic. And I hope that we can possibly work on a design scale that would just be a little bit smaller overall. I think that at the last meeting, they said it was 65 feet at the top
Right.
peak. Is that true?
No.
Yeah, no, it is,
I think
Brian confirmed
the
it.
town planner said that that was the case, so I'm,
there was some email.
maybe that's one of your questions for later.
Yeah, that's
but
for later,
I thought
I
that
know.
that was at the meeting,
Let's-
was
let's-
It
65.
has to do with the median on the site. It's
Let's
not-
get that number nailed down. Okay.
So I'm just urging the planning board to please consider the height here in this neighborhood. I think it's very much a residential neighborhood when you go up Vine Street, as one of the neighbors was saying. I do have a friend who owns a condo in the Wedgwood place right next door, and they're very concerned about parking and about the traffic as well. I would like to consider possibly the parking garage entrance to be on Elmwood and not on Vine. I went up Vine numerous times looking at this project, and it's all residential. And all those family homes coming down, they're now going to have a parking garage on the right and a parking garage on the left. Seems like a lot of traffic, and I would just wonder if we could redirect possibly the garage to the Elmwood side. And there's a lot of other people that want to speak, so thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Someone else would like to come forward? You know, there are a lot of people who are waiting to come forward, so if you wanted to line up to the side of the room, and then we'll just take you forward. it might be, we'll see how that works. So
Thank you so much, and thank you for the explanation of the building. This is my first glance at it, but I think I'm overwhelmed by the size.
your name.
Oh, my name is Jamie Duvall, and I live over on Dix Terrace, and I walk Elmwood all the time to go to the grocery store, and I love Fell's Hardware, et cetera. And I love the scale of that neighborhood, and I love the scale of the old 1850 house, and I don't think it had much detail to start with, but the form and the material, the wood structure, you can see the wooden houses up on the hill. But beyond that, there was one slide where you just get a sense of the mass of this building. We all think of the building that Main Street Pizza is in as big, but it looks tiny compared to this building. And the other thing is, I know a lot of people like the architecture, but I think it feels a little like suburban doctor's office or suburban shopping mall, and it doesn't feel like it really belongs on that corner. Yeah, with the houses and even the car sales rooms that are so open to the street. I like that, and I feel like with the garage on the first floor, we're gonna lose that. So, and then the other thing is, when you look at the renderings, you know that rooftop equipment's gonna go up on the roof, I believe. I don't think there's room, I don't think a penthouse has been designed in there, and that always becomes a problem. So I just think it's too big, which I think Michelle probably said too. Buy a lot, and I'm all for keeping the wood house. There were 2 Greek revival houses on Elmwood that got torn down for smaller developments. We're just losing them one by one, and it's eroding the character. And part of the cool thing about Winchester are the small buildings going up the hill, and when you get this volume of a building, you lose that, and that's part of the charm that we all love. And then there's, as people pointed out, there's no greenery around it at all. It's it would even look big in Davis Square where they've done so much development. That's what I think, but I love Fell's Hardware, and I love the neighborhood. And thank you. I'll probably send an email with more details.
Please do.
Thank you so much.
So I just, I want to thank you, and we'll keep lining them up. And please, if someone's already made your comment, then simply you can say, I agree or something, but we have lots of people and we only have 30 minutes left. So if you would give your name, please.
Yeah, Rick Kuhn, 4 Wedge Pond Road. I
Say name again.
Fell's Hardware also.
Your name. We have a
comments.
Just for our recording.
Your
secretary.
name.
Yeah, Rick Kuhn, last name Kuhn. I think the building is way too big, and my first question is, what is this? So, because there's nothing on Main Street bigger than about 2 or 3 stories. I mean, the Stetson apartment buildings, maybe 5 or 6 stories, but all the new stuff along Elmwood is 2 and 3 stories. Why are we building a 6-story building? And then the corner, actually, on Vine Street is the tallest piece facing away from the town. I'm an architect, I'm not sure I understand that. Why did you make the gesture back towards the town? Why can't we break the scale down of the roofs like we're doing with the bookstore, with some of the other residences, new multifamily residence buildings in the neighborhood? So, let me see, those are all kind of general comments. Yeah, and the main thing, Main Street being 2 or 3 stories, I don't understand this 5 or 6-story building. And the other question I had is, what is the actual height? I thought I read 65 feet, so I was assuming a 6-story building. So what's the height, and what was the zoning, and why are we changing?
The height is 50, can I answer it? It's 56 according
But
to,
that's a mean.
will you let me finish, please?
Sorry.
That's the mean average, but if you go to the highest point of the entire building from grade up is 68 feet, what I just measured.
The penthouse, yeah, on the side, okay.
Not counting mechanicals.
Right, I understand. So, but then what's going on with zoning? Why are we approving? I don't know what it was zoned before, what the height was, but we're changing it. Why are we changing it?
We're not actually changing the zoning. This is actually,
You're allowed to have 68.
there are, I don't recall exactly what the number's on, but our town planner's in here.
I'll do it.
Yeah, please.
So there is by right projects and special permit. This is coming in as a special permit project, and this is considered in the North Core. So the North Core, let me pull it up 1 second, has a specific height that they are by right allowed to do. They're trying to exceed that, and to exceed that, they need a special permit, which would be granted. through a process and has a lot of regulations set into it. The north core height is allowed at 45 feet. It's 65 with a special permit, 66 with parking if there's underneath. That's with a special permit, that's what they're trying to get. Then the maximum floor area ratio is 1.5 by right, and up to 2.5 with special permit, according to the town planner.
So it's 45 here, and then it's 60-something.
So
The special
45
permit.
is by right, what
Yeah,
someone can
yeah.
build by right, but they have to go for a special permit, and they have to meet a sense of criteria, which is embedded inside of our laws.
And you should
Pass
look at
that
the
town meeting.
criteria and see whether you think this complies.
And that's our job as a special permit granting authority.
Right, but a special permit means you're basically overriding the zoning and doing.
It can be denied if they don't.
can be
But you have to abide by the zoning's pretty intense.
There's some-
Yeah, we just redid that a few years
Yeah,
ago.
the section in the zoning is section 5(3), and.
Section 7's all CBD.
But the specific ones to this specific area in town is 7(3)(12)(3). It's titled North Core, and that goes through what is by right and what needs to be applied for a special permit if they would like to go more than that.
Okay, and then just one other comment or question. So, I mean, I actually was kind of excited when I first heard about it because I think, but I thought there was going to be retail on the ground floor, and I mean, I do, the fact that the Fells is staying there or somebody else is great, but that other corner,
It's parking, it's all parking.
that other corner, I don't know, it's just solid, and then the tower on the corner, you know, it's, anyway, so there's, aesthetically, I don't get it.
Just for a point of information for everybody listening, there are actually two applicable documents. There's the zoning bylaw, and the zoning bylaw for the Center Business District references rules, and those rules were adopted by the planning board. So, but these rules can be waived, so they're weaker, but the rules are supposed to be followed unless we choose to waive them.
So one more question, and I should probably know this. Is there an architectural review board for Winchester?
We have a CDRS, which did review it, and it's composed of members from the
Design review,
Design Review Committee and
the historical.
the
Historical Commission.
So we do have a review by them, which we will be reading out later.
Okay, thanks.
And, okay, I know that there are lots of questions about what is allowed in zoning, and this is a complicated section of town because it's been, because there are multiple different sections of town, so I really urge you to go to the planning board's website and to read the zoning because it's too complex for us to get into tonight, but I urge you to go and read it and make sure that you're comfortable with this project as proposed and with what's in the zoning. So please, let's continue. And I will set this and hopefully it won't be.
Thank you. My name is Alan Dorff. I live at 6660 Main. and
Oh,
it's Wedgewood
did you get it?
Place. Last name is spelled D-O-R-S. I'm on the list. I live at Wedgewood Place, adjacent to this proposed construction. And I want to expand on the traffic issue slightly. I walk through this area quite often, and it's obvious that Elmwood is a much wider street and a much quieter street, so I was surprised to see that the parking is dumping traffic, additional traffic onto Main Street. That expands on the previous comments, which I agree with. Probably related to this floor area number is the number of units, which generates some minimum parking requirements. I'm not sure what the planning board's parking per resident sort of planning guide might be, but if you add up the parking spots that were described earlier, you come up with about 29 spots for 32 units. And so I guess I need to see more detail, but at first glance, it seems like that's a bad ratio right there. I don't know how many bedrooms there are, and so I don't know how to estimate the number of residents and how many automobiles might be associated with that. An additional question that goes into that is, many of us described, I missed, are these apartments or are these condos?
Condos, I believe.
I believe they're condos.
We'll ask.
Could we ask the
Condominiums.
Condos, thank you. So these are condos.
Okay, so unless things are dramatically changed, more retail, fewer residents, I would oppose this plan as it is currently envisioned.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Brian Good. I'm a resident also at 666 Main Street in the Wedgewood condos. I'll try to be as brief as possible. So I would emphasize the concerns on the traffic situation. I hope the planning board will just accept the fact that a building with 32 units in it will certainly bring in excess of 32 cars for only 29 parking spaces. They'll exceed that by a long shot. And if anyone would just take a walk around the Vine Street area, that residential area, you'll see quite plainly there is nowhere to put excess cars. And so I would just wonder, what is the plan? Where are those excess cars going to go? Because there is nowhere to put them. The area is full of families. It has children. You have to drive around very slowly and carefully, especially with all the cars double parked, bringing in 35, 40 extra automobiles into that area seems very infeasible to me. Vine Street, as anyone who lives there knows, is a one-way street, whatever it's designated as. And I saw on the slide it was represented as two-way traffic access. It is not two-way traffic access. So anyone turning out on Vine Street onto Main Street, no one can turn from Main Street onto Vine Street at the same time, and vice versa. So
Is this because it's such a narrow street?
it's too narrow. It's just too narrow. It is impossible. If you're turning from Main Street onto Vine Street, it's impossible to turn sharply enough to stay in your lane. It is a one-way street. And so again, to dump 35, 40 extra cars and have that be their only access from the garage to and from Main Street. I think just the volume of cars introduced and making them use Vine Street exclusively is both I think they're both real disservices to the current residents in that area, so I take that seriously. I'll just simply say that I fully agree with the statements, that even understanding what the height actually is I understand it's not 60 feet. Still, building's too tall, it's too big. And the final thing I'll say very quickly.
Excuse me, you have run out of time. So, and there are a number of people, so.
Okay, can I just go 30 seconds, there's something that no one said
Really,
yet.
you have more people stacked. Please email us your comments. I just want to keep this going. I apologize, but.
It was just going to be on the deck.
Yeah.
And what that's going to engender.
Please email us your comments.
All right.
Please.
We'll take them into account.
We do take,
No
all
worries.
emails are read, so please.
Hi, my name is Yaping Zhang. I'm the neighbor, 51 One Street. So I think this building have a big effect on our family life in the future. Firstly, it's the height. And I think it will block, from my own purpose, is it block the sunshine of my kitchen. Totally, I block. The other is safety of children. Because my husband was hit by a car wrongly parked on Main Street when my boy is around 1 year old. I think this will happen very often. You can check the record in the police department. And I don't want my kids to live in an unsafe area. And another, I think I'm very surprised to get this, all this online, because last time when I came here, it's supposed to be a 3-story building, and suddenly it goes to such a high building with so many units. It created a lot of traffic, a lot of safety issue, and I think the whole street, I can imagine, is both Main Street, especially intersection of Main Street and Vine Street, it will be crowded in the morning. So I think that way you have to even consider a guide for the kids to go to school. This is pretty worry for me. So I think I know big buildings are important for the town, but the affordable, I also approve the affordable building, but it doesn't mean you have to build such a big one. So I think this is a really big effect for the neighborhood, and especially for those neighbors live on Vine Street. That's all I want to say. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
We are the last people standing to come forward, and I apologize, but the board we have to go through some of the reports that we've received from the engineers, and so, so please, why don't you start? And
I'm Karen Lanson. I live at 58 Vine Street, which is kitty corner to Bell's Hardware currently, next to the Wedgwood condominiums. I have been there for over 40 years, and I have seen most everything built. I was there when the theater, Easter store show was there. So I've seen everything being built there. And all of it has been a trauma when it was built, even the savings bank. And the Wedgwood condos were particularly a trauma, and they have, if it wasn't for Mr. Separis, they would be an eyesore. He made them put in extra windows, big trees, that nice fence with the little balls on it, and a driveway, so that they have at least some pullback from the street. So all the parking, the size, the design, all of that I agree with, but mostly what really affects me is that over these years, you know, when I moved in, that side of Vine Street, Bonnell's had just been torn down. It was really kind of a garbage sort of place. And it's become more and more beautiful and more accessible. When there's town day, there's a fishing derby. At Christmas time, the lights go all the way down Vine Street now. It's a place where people walk. They walk to the grocery store, they walk to the little park out there, they walk down to the bike trail going over to Lynch School. That has become an extension of downtown. Now you're going to put a building right on the corner. You're going to ask all the kids to walk to the fishing derby in front of several gas stations and a bank and a grocery store and then cross a very busy street. I think it will just totally change for the worse the feeling of what we want this town to be, what we're trying to keep it to be. And it's just, this belongs in Boston, not in this little village of a town that we have. Even today, I will say, I had about a 15-minute wait to get through the center of town to get to Vine Street in front of the banks. It's raining, it's dark, you're going to put that many more cars. It will just be a total gridlocked road. So I could go on and on, but that's my comments. Everyone has said all the negative things. I don't want to repeat those, but to me, it's the character of our town that is extended down Vine Street. You're not going to even have a sidewalk.
Yeah.
I can't even believe it. I'm like, who would do this? It's like criminal. That's it.
okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Marcia Kuhn. I live up on Wedge Pond Road, and one of the beauties of Winchester and that neighborhood is the community feel that you get. People walking and really enjoying the scale of the town. We love Bell's Hardware. We walk down there all the time and really appreciate that being there. I appreciate that a new building is going to go up, but honestly, the scale of it is probably 2 times too big for this. I look at the other building that's being built, and it seems more in character of the town and the neighborhood and the sizing that we need. Why it can't be pushed back, I look at that picture on top, and I see one tree before the liquor store, and I go a block and a half before I see a single tree or blade of grass. There's nothing on the other side either. I don't think that's Winchester. I don't think that's the beauty of our town. I don't think it's welcoming. And I think it's very disruptive. You're really breaking the feel of downtown. The Christmas lights, no way they can continue with that there. And I would just say scale it back, bring the size down, keep Winchester 3 stories, make it enjoyable, make it feel like it's part of the town, not a barrier dividing the town from, you know, beautiful downtown to a very sterile section of town. If you go to the Seaport District and you walk around there, they try and plant a tree, but it's basically very sterile. People don't go there unless it's work. At night, people aren't going to the restaurants and doing things because it's not an enjoyable feeling place. Please don't make Winchester like that also.
Thank you. And actually, she was going to be the last person, I apologize. Because we were going to have, I believe we're going to have to continue this hearing.
Oh, yeah, we usually do.
So there will
And
be,
a building like this.
there will be another hearing coming up. So you will have another chance to provide testimony before the hearing, and of course, you can always email us at planningboard@winchester.us. But right now, we only have about,
Just to be clear, will there be any opportunity this evening to speak in favor of the project?
right now, the applicant is the one who is primarily in favor of it. And, but I understand and I realize, but we're going to continue this and we're going to have plenty of time for more testimony.
This is just the beginning.
So this is just, this evening, no, but in another planning board meeting, we're going to continue this to another planning board meeting, and then we will have an opportunity for more speaking.
Just point of order, before we close the hearing, we have to continue to a time certain?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so we will.
So we'll have to announce.
We will let you know when it's coming up. But what I want to do very quickly is to get in some of the comments from the boards who have reviewed this plan. And sir, if you could please go back to the audience. Appreciate it. Sorry about that. Thank you for coming.
There will be time. There will be time. Yes, sure.
So let me see if I can get this in order. Of course, I don't have it in order. So we have a recommendation from the CBDRS, the Center Business District Review Subcommittee. And so they voted on a number of different conditions. I will read you the votes, the conditions and the votes by that committee. This is an advisory committee, so we take into account what they say, but we come to our own decisions based on all of the input we get. So there was a motion to preserve...
Eileen's here. Does she want to present?
We don't have time for that, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Sorry.
We really don't. We have, right now, 5 minutes left. The motion to preserve 63 Vine Street failed by a vote of 2 to 3. Relocating the entrance lobby under the northeast corner tower at the corner of Main and Vine passed 4-0, 1 abstention. Modification of the exterior materials, these are all in the public as well if you want to read them. Minimize oversized cornice on lobby tower, replace lap siding on 4th floor exterior with brick, replace brick at retail ground level with cast stone or similar material, that passed all in 4-0, 1 abstention. Mandate handicapped accessibility to rear public space, passed 4-0, 1 extension. A preference to relocate a portion of the outdoor public area to the northeast corner for greater accessibility. That motion failed on a tie vote 2-2. And on the main motion to recommend favorable action, that passed 3-2. So that's from the Central Business District Review Subcommittee.
I want to comment on that. Going forward, especially because we have somebody there who transmitted the information, it's going to be desirable if they can use the actual criteria and reference them, because that was totally missing. And it's actually really important, because I think you would have found that there are a lot of criteria that aren't being met in this project, and that you would want to evaluate, because these were the criteria we have for this project. So it's pretty important.
The CBDRS conducted its review and issued its recommendation to the planning board.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm reading their...
No, I understand, but I'm hearing that there's a desire to have them look at the data again, or look at the...
No.
I didn't say that.
No, it was just a comment that in the future, if they would include the specific, please, Maureen, you said it so much better.
Well, I'm not sure I can do it twice, but that we are actually obliged, we voted, we passed these are rules of the board, and they're supposed to really guide how the buildings that this town builds in the Central Business District, just how they're designed, and that's really, there's an awful lot in here, and a lot of what we've seen in this building really doesn't fit the rules, therefore it would be helpful if you were evaluating against the rules.
But this is in the future. We're hoping to have more context so that we understand how their comments fit in with the regulations.
Mm-hmm.
So this is for future projects, not with this project. They have.
But we will.
They have voted, and so their participation in this is now over. Is that your concern?
No, and
Excuse me, everyone's coming to the table, and I have... This is, I can listen to your attorney, but we have 2 minutes left, and I still have things to be done. And the fact that you know, I've given you your point of order, is there anything more that you want to bring up? Because I only have 2 minutes. Okay, excellent.
He should
So
leave the
let's- So
table.
if you could please...
It's like the bench and the...
Yes, I understand. So,
we're running out of seats, that's all.
well, then take a stand.
It is pretty packed.
Okay, so that's from the CBDRS. We have a recommendation from the town engineer. The town engineer is, because this is in the floodplain, due to the complex flood-related issues, the engineering department recommends that VHB, which is the consultant the town uses a lot, be retained as a peer review consultant, so this would be a 53G consultant. And so that's a request by the town engineer. We also have, we have other, I don't have time to read all of the comments we got from the other boards. We have members of the CBDRS who have written separate letters, and those will be in the public domain. That's about all the time we have right now. So if the board wants to make some really quick comments, or shall we just continue?
Continue, but we need a date.
Right, so, this is where Brian could be here. So, let's see.
The 2nd is a zoning hearing. I don't know how long you expect that. The 9th, we're meeting on the housing production plan. The 16th is the master plan. The 30th, we have capstone coming in, but we have to do this.
Yeah, I don't know, so, we have quite a few. The zoning hearing usually takes the entire meeting.
Yep.
The housing
No, it
production.
doesn't.
Pardon?
No.
It's a public hearing for all the zoning articles, and we have around 10 of them.
Exactly.
And I think that one of them in particular is somewhat, might be seen as controversial.
Yes,
so-
we ought to actually invite people to come. There is a zoning hearing next Tuesday, and that includes increasing the floor area ratio, that is the density, in a portion of the CBD.
Maureen, please, let's get down.
If you're interested in this, come to the hearing.
Yes, let's keep to the business at hand. So, we
It is.
have a Housing Partnership Board joint meeting of the Select Board on October 9th. We have a Master Plan Steering Committee meeting on the 16th. So, we have a capstone, that we could fit it in on the 23rd, but we don't, that would mean that the planning board would have 5 meetings in October, which I don't know that that's going to work. Now, since the the application is complete as of yesterday, and we have to render a decision within 90 days of receiving a complete application.
Except that they can give an extension, and that's very typical of how these projects move forward.
Let me just say that if the 90-day clock starts yesterday, I just want to let every people know that there is a requirement that I think we're still okay. So we're talking about now moving into November.
No, we should meet in October.
I was just done with October.
We have to meet in October. It's just too long, because there's too much to go over on this project.
Well, it is a significant project.
It's a significant project, so then we'll have to have 5 meetings in October.
No, we could also meet on the 30th. Capstone could come in at 7, and we could start this at 8 o'clock.
Oh, I see, right, capstone is just a short time.
And celebrate
So,
Halloween.
How many people want to be here on?
The 30th, we've got a meeting.
It's
Well, we're
currently on our
scheduled.
calendar.
It's scheduled. Okay,
It is
I'm
on
going
the
to make a
calendar,
motion that we schedule this continuation of this hearing for Tuesday, October 30th at 8 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So to be
Okay.
continued.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Actually, never been at a hearing before where people that want to speak in favor were, will people that want to speak in favor be allowed?
Yeah, we just ran out of time.
We didn't speak either, or else.
I mean, you guys, I realize that, yes, you will definitely have a chance. Our procedure claims, or our procedure says that we are supposed to listen to opponents. Now, there was no single opponent, so our procedure kind of broke down at that point, but certainly we will have as much time as required for people to bring their opinions. So I assure you that this board will handle both sides with equal importance.
Mr. Chairman, would I be able to finish my presentation at the continuation of this evening?
I don't know the answer to that right now. I think the board will have to discuss that. So I am going to ask for a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Okay, we need a roll call, so let's go around.
Aye.
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 Okay, 5-0.
You want to take a 2-minute break while we?
Yeah, let's take a 2-minute break.
No, they're not, there was
Next door, 666, you know.
Was, yeah, we just checked it.
Yeah.
I said, you look what he did inside, and then.
The one I had, that was the one that was left here. This is the one that was in the packet. What came in the packet, that's what was left on the table.
He's an orphan.
Line up copy. It's actually not, yeah, official.
You did a great job keeping up. See what sort of food did. Things do.
Well, let's watch it. All right. All right, so get this distributed to the entire, the full packet now that it's fully been Can I ask you a question? We're on a break for a minute.
if I can get there.
going through the articles that the planning board is considering putting into the town warrant. And we have with us Art Krieger, town council, to give us his listing.
Excellent.
Some of it. Okay, however much you can spare. So why don't we just start with Article 8, and I don't have control of the computer.
Hold on a second. There you go.
And I need a keyboard.
Oh, we probably should get that up online. All the documents from tonight up online.
They should, yeah, I'll be talking about that with.
There it is.
Privilege and confidential, not a public record. Does that mean, well, it's a public record now.
Yeah, because we're talking about it.
Yeah.
So I'm a little, I don't understand what that means, but we'll just ignore it for now.
While it was a draft, until it gets talked about tonight, it was not a public record.
Okay, so why don't we start with Article 8? And I think that one's pretty clear. We're just fixing up all of our documents to take into account for the change in the name of the Board of Selectmen to the Select Board. I should note that just recently another town in the Commonwealth has decided against changing their name.
Okay, go on. Very nice.
Numbers change for the articles? Because I think we got this Article 1.
I think these are the temporary placements for the actual full articles for the town meeting.
As they go into the warrant. So these are the numbers that
Placeholders.
are listed in the warrant. Okay, so let's move on to Article 9, and this is a article for essentially defining what a dormer is.
Back to dormers again.
And I think this is the first time that this board has seen this in its state. So.
That is correct.
Art, did you want to say something?
Yeah, the formatting and the organization of it is mine.
Okay.
The highlighted are things that I wanted to talk about. But I took the proposed definitions verbatim from what was given to us, dormer and skylight. And my only question on those was what it means to be set vertically on a pitched roof, as opposed to set some other way.
The window itself needs to be set.
Perpendicular to the ground?
Oh, with a window or windows that are set vertically, not the structure set vertically.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And
Is there a way to clarify that to make it tighter? Anyone? That it's actually the windows that are vertical and the.
I think the word
Facing.
vertical is confusing because a window is always
Vertical.
vertical.
Well, a skylight isn't actually, but.
Oh, is that the point of?
There's two
It
points
actually-
going on here. So, sorry, because this hasn't come before the planning board, and I worked with Brian on this. Dormer is actually, the majority of that is coming out of the dictionary.
Right.
So that's where the word vertically is coming out of the
Yeah, that's a
architecture
pretty-
dictionary. And why skylight is in there is Lexington is having an issue where they don't specifically define skylights. So inside of that pitched roof, they're doing similar roofs that are incredibly vertical to get that third floor in without dormers. And they're putting skylights in it and claiming it as a skylight versus a dormer.
Oh, that's pretty good, okay.
Oh, let's try and cut that one off.
So that is why the definition of skylight is in there, is so that we don't run into what Lexington
Differentiated,
is currently having
Good.
seen.
Good.
Is that we are talking straight about dormers, and skylights cannot be used to take the place of a dormer.
So the vertical actually is differentiating from that and saying it's more like perpendicular to the roof.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Or
think it,
perpendicular
So
to
it's
the grade, earth, parallel to gravity.
And with that, we were going to do something similar to what we had done with when we talked about the definition of the what is the new term, just blanking?
Multi-unit.
Multi-unit,
Duplex.
the duplexes, is we're gonna have the same thing of all the different types of dormers that there are to go along with that, so.
You mean, you were talking about illustrations?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
so there will be illustrations along with it, but as we did with the duplexes, Brian and I are talking about not doing it in here also, but having it available to the Special Permit Granting Authority, the ZBA, and us in the building department. So the skylight, that's what we're trying to not, so it's on the ceiling, it's not on the walls. Right? So if you take a roof structure and you make that angle be your walls, you cannot put skylights there to take on your third floor, to take the place.
Okay, my suggestion to clarify that dormer definition, because I didn't understand what vertically was referring to, is to turn it around, say a projecting structure on a pitched roof with a window or windows.
Set vertically, that does it.
Okay, so on a pitch roof, I'm gonna pretend I'm Brian here.
Yeah, we need it. And
No,
maybe.
I'm not gonna pretend I'm Brian, I'll just make notes.
But also, just sometimes I found if we help make sure Liz is all set, she can back up Art, but we have to be reading to Liz, and Liz has to confirm she's got it.
Did you get that?
So, I don't normally keep
Right,
the
right.
exact details
Yeah.
of the language and
So
content.
I will have notes of what the changes we're making.
I will have notes, Brian will be reviewing this meeting, so we should, so.
Does that mean, Art, you're gonna make the changes and send it back to Brian?
Right.
Okay.
Perfect.
So a projecting structure on a pitched roof with a window or windows set vertically, period.
Good.
Okay, excellent.
Okay. Then we get to the second half, and where we're behind this article, can you explain what it's intended to do?
Well, can you tell us what you see it as? Because that is what actually, we wanted to make sure that, we tried to get it, but I want to make sure that what our intention, we took what the planning board had set as directive and put it into words, and so I want to make sure you understand what we're,
Okay.
the
So
interpretation.
the first thing is it applies only in the 6 residential districts and not in business or other districts. It's a restriction on dormers and skylights.
Okay.
It's going to use those definitions you just adopted. In order to maintain the appearance of the top building as a half story, namely keep a shed roof from turning, a shed dormer from effectively turning it into a third story. The linear length of a dormer above the second story, that is, if it's a ranch, you weren't trying to get at dormers, shed dormers above the first story.
Yeah.
Correct.
You're trying to get the dormers above the second story.
Right.
Will not, and I'll paraphrase here, and then we'll get to the language, won't be more than half the horizontal distance of the roof that the dormer is sitting on. So a shed dormer can be up to 50% of the horizontal distance of the pitched roof plane on which it is located. If you want it to be more than 50%, you need a special permit. That's the first point. The second point is no other projections that increase habitable space shall be allowed other than a dormer that satisfies that first clause. The third point is that a skylight has to only be in a shallow roof. It can't be in a vertical wall or a near vertical wall. Only in a roof with a pitch of 12 to 12 or less. So part of it is to keep shed dormers from engulfing the whole roof, and part of it is to avoid some weird Lexington situation where they call the
Well, it's a
window a
loophole.
skylight.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
trying to
what
avoid
this
the
is intended to
loophole.
do.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so the first thing is, just looking at the highlighting first. I changed floor in what I received. I changed the word floor to story. Why is, so this.
Story,
So hang on, so the deleted language, there was,
maybe I hit the wrong key or somewhere.
no, the current bylaw, at least my compilation, says intentionally left blank.
Yes.
4.2.5.
So does everything that we see.
So that language should be actually in there in front of that, inside the quote.
I may have hit a key. I do not.
Okay.
I'm not a Mark Sutherland person.
Okay, so this will start out intentionally left blank structure,
Right,
and then the rest of it is bold because it's being added.
right.
Okay. I changed the word floor to story because story is a defined term.
Yep.
And you didn't mean the floor plate, you
No.
meant
You're correct.
floor, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. There's vertically again, and now I don't understand. understand it, because now we're not talking about windows, we're talking about the dormer, on which the dormer is located vertically. That doesn't seem to make sense there.
I think the idea was that this would apply to every side of the roof. So it's saying this is above the roof in which it is located,
So it's not every side, it's every plane.
every plane.
So what we're trying to do is each plane can have a dormer
Yeah,
with up to
50%.
50% of the length of that plane of the face of the building. Now,
Right.
if you have one set back and one set forward, right, but you can still see it, those are two separate planes. The same thing exists, 50% here, 50% here.
I'm sorry, are those two, you mean like a roof and then a...
Oh, I'm sorry, two, like if you have the front of the house here
Yeah.
and like a garage over here.
Yeah.
So it's an L-shaped house and you see both planes.
Okay,
We're trying to say you can do 50% of a dormer on this side and
Yeah.
50% here.
okay,
So let's say this is 20 feet, the garage is 20 feet, and the front of the house is 30 feet. On the 30 feet, you can do 15,
yeah,
and then on the 20-foot garage, you can do 10.
okay.
So it's on each individual plane, but we could not figure out the language that would express that clearly.
So what does the word vertically mean in that formulation?
So each one where the dormer is in front of each pitched roof plane on which it is located vertically. The dormer, the face of the dormer with a window, or without, it always has to have a window, that it sits in, the window sits in a vertical plane.
Yeah, but this is not talking about windows anymore, this is now the dormer itself.
Right, right.
Yeah, the
The dormer, I don't understand what the word vertically adds to it.
I agree.
It's a dormer sitting on a pitched roof,
That's all you need.
pitched roof on which it's located,
okay,
right?
yep.
I mean, I'm asking if you, but if you can't,
And then does the plane, the word plane make sense of, because I'm talking about the actual plane of the elevation. So there's, so not all houses are boxes. So you can have multiple depths. And we don't want,
will there be pictures with this?
we can sketch anything you want.
Well, you have to sketch it. I'm trying to find that.
She's good.
Probably should be.
Oh,
Okay, but a dormer is located on one roof plane, correct?
Yeah,
So.
Well, it can be more than one dormer. It can't be more than one dormer.
but it does say
A dormer
each.
doesn't sit on more than one roof plane.
No.
Okay, so it's the horizontal
Something new.
distance of the pitched roof plane on which it sits, not each one.
She means each because she wants to do.
Oh, it is each,
Between-
that I
you
see.
have-
So let's say if you.
More than one.
Planes on the front of your house.
Right, for example, you
Like
might
30
have,
steps
you might
back.
have it on one and on the other side as well.
Hang on, we just said a dormer can't be on two different roof planes.
No, but you could have one dormer on each one.
Okay, so a dormer cannot exceed 50% of the distance of each pitched roof plane on which it is located.
Yeah, that's at least a
Now,
good
if you want
start.
to add, you can have more, nothing in this section prohibits more than one dormer per house, as long as each one complies with the above provisions, you can do that, but it seems obvious, because there is no such limitation. Okay, so far?
Yep.
So I'm changing each to the in the third line, and I'm taking out vertically.
Aren't you taking out that they sit vertically?
Now let's look at it, the linear length of a dormer. What you mean is the length parallel to the eaves, essentially, or the length across the pitch of the roof plane? That's what,
Maybe, let's do a sketch. Because that might make,
can we just say the maximum linear length? What?
Just length, period. You don't need linear. Length.
Yeah, linear, I guess, is, well,
Width, isn't it width anyway?
it would have to be width. We would have to say linear. Well, width is defined kind of to be
I
linear.
don't know what that is. Width.
Sorry, topologically, your length can be followed path. You could have a round dormer.
No.
no, you can. It's actually one of the samples we have.
And I can
Like
actually
the
see,
eyebrow window?
Yeah.
I can see a round dormer being on multiple roof planes.
wait, an eyebrow is still has one linear, one width.
Correct.
Yes.
You don't follow the curve of the roof.
Correct.
Right.
So it's just
that's
the
why
width of the dormer, nobody would argue that it's
Right.
around the curb.
Right,
Right.
it's width.
So-
Let's
So
go
it's
with
still
width.
right?
I like width.
Yes, that's right.
It's a
Width
very
is
good
great.
English word.
The width of dormer. So instead of calling it the horizontal distance of each pitched roof plane, so we simply call it the width
Yep.
of each pitched roof plane?
Mm-hmm.
Of the roof plane.
Oh, I'm sorry, of the roof plane.
This is the width. The width of the dormer.
I still actually have a question going back to dormer. Does a gable fit this definition if you were to put a gable that it's not a dormer?
If it has a window in it, it's a dormer.
But it's not set on a pitched roof.
Then it's a gable, it's not a
It's
dormer.
gable. Do we care about gables?
Well, that's part of your, that should be part of, yeah.
Well, I have a gable on my house which comes off of the main roof. So, and it comes right out to the vertical plane of the wall of the
So that's
house.
just part of your roof.
That's an
It's not
addition,
a-
that's a half story.
It's not a dormer sitting on top of a roof, that is part
Right,
of,
right, I
that is the roof.
just want to make sure that my concept of a gable is correct.
But you could have a gable dormer that.
Correct.
That's right.
Yes, I have one of those, I have one of
That's
those.
different, that's
I also
different,
have a little piece of roof that goes outside that's in the gable. Okay.
I'm not even going
I
there.
think that's a separate issue if you wanted to address that, I wouldn't, you weren't into a dormer concept.
I wouldn't either, I just want to.
Keep going, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's
All
go
right.
back to this.
All right, so are we done with the first clause through the special permit provision?
Can you read it again?
In a residential district, in order to maintain the appearance of the top story of the building's a half story, the width of a dormer located above the second story, the width of a dormer located above the second story shall not exceed 50% of the width of the pitched roof plane on which it is located, without a special permit on the transport system.
So, just so, I'm gonna ask Heather, so the pitch roof plane is this dimension here to here. It's not this and this. Right, that's how I'm interpreting it. I
But
just-
you took away that, he's not saying each anymore. It's just.
On the roof plane on which it is located.
Each
Yeah, so
of-
this would apply to each roof.
Yeah, because each of them is located on a roof
Yeah.
plane, and so each of them has that 50% limit.
Is that what you were hoping to achieve, or were you hoping to allow what you just?
Yes, what we didn't want is them to take all the dimensions all the way around, right, or on two sides, or add these two up, and then put one exuberant dormer here. That's what we were worried about.
Okay.
Super.
And I hope that language is what that is, taking that into account, right? So that really is then creating a third floor in this massing.
Mhm.
If
I
they
think it
took
does, it
that.
says basically the width, 50% of the width of the plane.
And the plane is each side, or each, and the planes can be on different setback. Okay.
As long as we're clear what width is, because, you know, when you look at it, if you looked at a rectangular house, you would typically say the front of the house is the length.
Right.
The length, but it's not the,
But, right, and now we're calling that same axis the width of the roof plane.
Yeah, wherever it might be.
You're saying it's confusing because we were talking about length and now we're talking about width.
Well, I'm saying, you weren't talking about length, but if I look at a house, I would ordinarily say
Yeah.
it's 40 feet long,
Mhm.
meaning that way. Now
Yeah.
we're using that dimension, and we're calling it width of that roof plane. I just want to make sure we're clear and figure out if there's a way to be clearer.
so width would not,
I think width is, when I think of a roof, it's got a width. The width is the obvious dimension.
is the depth.
I would always think of
There's
it as
a
a
depth.
length.
Length, width, and
Because if
height.
you're like measuring gutters, that's a length.
Well, it's a
Yeah,
length
width
of the gutter because it's more linear, but you attach it to the width.
I know, but that's the distance we're talking about.
So the width is not the right word.
Well, it may be, but, I mean, well, if we said length,
The problem is, when you talk about length of gutter, the width of the gutter is how narrow the gutter is, and
Right.
its length is the long dimension.
Right.
But when you're talking about a roof apart from the gutters, the length of the gutter in my mind, when you look at it, you're looking at it sideways, which is typically a width.
That's why we're calling it, that's why I called it linear length.
Yeah, I don't think we usually talk about the width.
No, they're talking about, if you go width, you're usually going to the depth, and we're not going to that. That's why I use the linear length.
Well, but linear doesn't solve the problem.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's the direction along which you're measuring,
Right.
but a three-dimensional object is usually height, width, depth.
Right.
In this case, width is usually across your vision, so if I'm contemplating a roof, I'm looking at it straight on, and the width is essentially would be the part upon which, where you attach your gutter, that would be the width. I don't know any, I mean,
Well, we could put a parent, that I don't have a definition, we could have a parenthesis. That width is parallel to the eaves, width is perpendicular to the pitch of the roof.
That might help.
width being perpendicular to the pitch of the roof, I think that would,
Mhm.
that's clear. Unless you have a really funky roof, in which case, you're gonna. doesn't matter. It's perpendicular to the pitch.
It's kind of confusing because it's 3D, because then you could think of perpendicular coming out.
But really, it's not a 3D dimension that we're
Yeah.
concerned with. We're just concerned with this dimension and this dimension. So it's not 3D dimensions that we're dealing with. But the problem is we don't want this dimension to be interpreted as this dimension.
Well, I think you already have that by saying it's on.
As a practical matter, if you've got the pitch of the roof, yes, technically there are lots of perpendicular lines. In fact, there's an infinite number of perpendicular lines.
That's what I was thinking.
But the only one that makes any sense is one that goes this way. Anything that goes down this way into the living room doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's confusing because when you talk about the dormer, you could also be talking about the depth of it, how far it sticks out from the
Mhm.
face of the.
But we're only talking about the existing roof without the dormer.
Width of the existing roof.
And so, the only, Heather, Marion, the only way I could see a confusion about which roof you're talking about is if they actually had the exact same plane. And that's physically impossible unless they are right next to each other. So if these two roofs, one is set back from the other, they cannot be on the same plane
That's true.
by
So-
definition.
Yeah.
So I see, so in the way that you highlighted it, shall not exceed 50% of the horizontal distance of each pitched roof plane on which it is located without a special permit.
That's the
Done.
old, that's the
You
old.
just take vertically out of it.
That's the old language.
Vertically is the
We took out vertically, we took out horizontal
Right, it's
distance
out.
and called it width, and we took out each and called it, and said 50% of the width of the pitched roof plane on which it is located.
Right.
It's fine.
I think it's okay, particularly if you have,
Yep.
I mean, the tool that you have here is, that you never use, and most planning boards don't use, is sort of to compile legislative history. I mean, you report to town meeting. I mean, I always look for this when I'm trying to interpret an ambiguous bylaw in some town, and I can never find, this which would help. The report to town meeting, or maybe you could do it actually in the pictures here too.
Yeah.
If there's pictures in it, but otherwise, the report to town meeting should say, here's what we mean by width, and then there's a record of that, that's what everybody understood as saying. And then that's that.
And a picture to
It's
illustrate
kind of
it.
drawing and it says width.
Use
So that's like do
drawing.
this almost, and
Yeah.
then the width.
Yeah, that's fine.
Use the words that are in here and say, this is this. and
Exactly,
this
and
is
that
this.
makes it.
With equal X equals Y.
As long
X is equal Y.
Yeah, so as long as the pictures that we provide to the other boards are the same as we provide to town meeting.
Can we bring these
I will
back?
work on,
I really want these to come back into the
Well, they
zoning.
are actually in the document given to the ZBA.
Right.
So, how do I make this come back?
those are my sketches too.
Of the attached.
But they didn't make it into the zoning bylaw, which is really, I really want them.
No, we decided not to do it.
I don't know how they got deleted, but I want
it was under deliberation, so just to keep us on
So,
schedule.
to clarify, since we've never talked about it, everyone's okay that's only in the residential districts, because we're talking about the third stories of residential districts? All right.
Okay, second clause, no other frame projections that increase habitable space above the second floor, actually it should be story. All right. Shall be allowed.
And this is actually where my question about gables comes in.
We'll get to that. What's frame mean there, why do we need it?
Yeah, no, you don't need it. I saw that originally in the dormer thing, and I took it out. You don't
Okay.
need it.
All right.
Oh, because,
You mean that it's framed out?
yeah, it's framed out.
But
What are
are you regulating only framed projections?
Right, you don't need that, in theory.
Yeah, no, we don't. And actually, one of the big discussions on why that was brought in, and which was clarified, is that on some of the dormers, they actually do, and it has been done, they actually create little balconies, which actually is quite lovely. We wanted to make sure that if someone wanted to do that. But that's not habitable space, that balcony is not habitable space.
And just as a technical point, if everyone could bring their mics closer
Oh,
to them.
sorry.
I listened to a couple of our meetings and they're really hard to understand.
Okay. You want to talk about gables here?
This is where I was worried about gables. If I put a gable in instead of a dormer, this essentially says, I can't do that.
The gables is a type of roof.
Gable is not on top of.
This is-
It's not a projection.
Another roof.
Right.
No other projections shall be allowed. No. I'm trying to understand no other projections.
That means like a dormer without a window.
Right.
That's really what it is.
Maybe that should
And
say
I have
that.
that example in.
Well, maybe that's the plain English. I mean, why not? A dormer without a window shall not be allowed.
Because we already said a dormer.
It's a projecting structure.
Yeah, I'm okay.
No, I hear you, but why not say that what we're concerned with?
If you think that's the only thing you're concerned with. If you're comfortable that that's the only.
I'm happy with this language as long as, since I've been informed that gables are roofs.
It's a type of roof, by definition.
But what's wrong with plain English?
It's not that plain.
It is using plain
Whether you want to
This,
limit it
I think
to
this is,
windows.
yeah, I think this is plain, and I understand this in that context.
Well, is a chimney a projecting structure? I think it's
The
ambiguous.
chimney doesn't increase habitable space.
I'm sorry. I'm unfortunately with what I got in my packet.
It's in your new packet, the
There's
stuff
a
you
new
got this
one that
evening.
I didn't see either.
Okay, I'll find it.
Anyway,
If it's here,
that's why
I've
the
got
habitable
it.
space is in there. So you could do a chimney, you can do
Yeah,
a
Thank you.
little
No, got it.
turret of
Okay.
some sort.
You can do an antenna, or you could do
right, antenna.
What?
Right.
It was
An
under
antenna,
this,
right?
Yeah.
Maureen. It was under this thing.
Okay, I'll find it. Thank you very much.
All right,
You can do weather vane. You
Third
can do-
clause, can't have a skylight on a shallow, it has to be only on a shallow roof. Yes?
Yeah, so you can't, it's not visible from, as visible. That was, so,
So what keeps you from doing a skylight on a vertical wall? Because if you're not putting it on a ceiling, it's not in the skylight definition.
that's what we need help
Just
with.
call it, well, then it's just called a window.
Just call it a window.
And
All right.
So why can't I put so what you're saying is if I put a window on something that's not vertical, if it's not projecting, it's still a window on a slope.
I guess tell me why you need the third clause.
Right.
Yeah.
we're just trying to figure out how to do the skylight. So we defined what a skylight was.
Yeah.
But then you have to-
What's the problem you're trying to avoid? What design, what kind of building you're trying to avoid?
Doing the French gambrels where the roofs are really high up, and then instead of, so it's the roof line,
Yeah.
and then putting skylights in all of those. Does that make sense? So similar to the,
Can you draw that please for those of us who are?
Yes, I
I actually could just use image from this.
But if the gambrel, the French gambrel.
Is this type of roof
Picture is worth 1,000 words here.
that is being proposed here?
I thought gambrels were Dutch. as in Dutch colonial.
All right, so it's this,
Like St. Martin, half of it's French, half of
it's this roof type.
You've been there.
Going on. So it's this roof type where it's very vertical. And then it's, because they can't get the dormer lengths that they want in Lexington, they are now, instead of putting dormers in, they're just putting skylights to replace these dormers.
Bad, yeah.
So they're just skylights like thrown into the
Into the roof.
roof.
And so is that a bad thing?
It doesn't increase the habitable space, because essentially you run into a window and it's slanted. Is it just a?
Then it's all that, so you want all that to be all skylights?
That's an aesthetic, that's an aesthetic thing.
I think that's different than a dormer because that doesn't project. You're saying that you're putting skylights in the sloped roof?
Well, he has a point. So the whole point is that skylights should be on the ceiling, they shouldn't be on the walls. That's a window.
Well, what's the matter with the window? I guess I'm not sure what the issue is.
The way that they're trimmed and stuff is different. A skylight is not trimmed out.
Is this a design issue that you want something that's trimmed out like the window if it's going to be effectively a window?
I mean, I find skylights ugly regardless of what projection, I mean, I have two on my house and they look ugly when I look at them from the outside, so.
The whole point is that we don't want the building to read as if there's a third story. We want it to read as 2.5 stories.
That's the point, right.
So if they're gonna do that type of roof and put skylights, it's reading as a 3-story building. Because it's windows all along the full front of the building versus a half-story.
Okay, so,
I'm fine if the planning board just wants to strike the whole skylight concern, but.
I guess I'm still trying to understand how, if they're going to put this third story, and instead of putting dormers, they're putting skylights, that doesn't change the massing of the roof.
It does change the massing, so instead of doing, for example, what you have, they would change the roof type to be more of what an image I just showed you, which is really a huge 3-story box, right? Because those roofs are very vertical, and then they're putting skylights all the way down them.
So doesn't that really have more to do with the roof styles that you're trying to avoid?
I think the roof style is awesome, I just think skylights are nice.
But wouldn't that already be, increase the floor space of the third floor to the point where it would be contrary to the zoning already in terms of total floor space? I mean, you can't
No,
have-
there is no, we do not have a requirement of how much open, like, how that third floor square footage, we don't have any requirements of that in any of our zoning. So that's the other option you
There
could
is a
consider.
Well, we define half-story in a certain way, which I think is where we have to go to and look at what a half-story is.
C story half, by the way. So go to story.
A story directly under a sloping roof in which the points of intersection in the bottom of the rafters and the interior faces the wall are less than 3 feet above floor level on at least 2 walls. So, take just a rectangular house, front pitch roof and a back pitch roof and straight sides. As long as in the attic, the roof comes down to less than 3 feet off the floor, front and back, that's a half story. If the roof rafters meet the wall more than 3 feet up, that's a full story then, right?
Right.
Okay.
So you can't actually pop the whole roof up.
No.
And do the sort of design that you're talking about, because then you would have,
Oh, you can.
but then you would have a problem with the 3 feet limit. It can't be more than 3 feet.
It's not 3 feet, it's starting at the floor of the story, of the third floor. So it starts at the foot, but it's such a high vertical that you're almost creating that wall.
That's what I mean, you're really getting it roof pitch
Yeah.
for a third floor.
So this is what happened in Lexington when they went to this dormer law.
Yeah.
Is then they started seeing all these very strong pitched roofs with skylights in them. That was what they saw, and I think I can probably pull up a picture of actually what.
I actually think there's one in Winchester that we can look at, which I know we're not supposed to do, but,
In Winchester, I can get you one in Lexington. I took a picture of it.
yeah.
Can I suggest that this is, we're really not just.
We're in the weeds
language.
here. We're in the weeds.
Well, no,
I just-
they're important weeds, but it's nothing I can help you with on language.
Right, right.
The concept of what you're trying to regulate,
Yeah.
I think needs to be clear. For example, and just to go back to the basics, I started thinking about, is it only where there's a half story? So in 4 of the 6 residential districts, the maximum building height in stories is 2.5, but in the other 2, RA it's 3 and RB it's 5. So you're not even maintaining a half-story concept in those 2 districts at all, right? Those are flat roof buildings maybe, I assume.
That's a very good point.
Tell me your
So-
page, where are you? I'm
Well,
sorry.
that's in the table on page 4.2.
So we're really looking only at RG, REA, no.
A, B, and C, yeah.
A, B, and C.
RD, A, B, and C, and RG. But I don't know if you want to regulate something in the other 2 districts, this issue.
Yeah.
So can I suggest this one is not quite ready for prime time?
Yes.
Sounds
I
like the
agree.
way to me.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I do.
I mean,
I
if we're
was
saying-
thinking
if
You
we're
know
about,
what, though? Can we go forward with the skylight? I mean, I'm sorry, the dormer? I apologize.
yeah, the definition of a dormer.
Yeah,
We do want.
You can go forward with the first 2
first 2,
Right,
clauses of this
Yeah.
section.
right.
So we're going
I would like to.
But you need to clarify, is it all residential districts or only the ones where there's a half-story limit?
Okay, so, going forward, let me try to get the consensus of the board. We're okay with the definitions.
Yep.
We need to determine which districts B applies to, and we need to determine whether we want to include the last phrase talking about skylights installed on roofs.
Right.
And those are the things, so I think I think the board can make a decision on that last phrase right now. Do we want to go forward without the skylights and fix it later, or is it important enough that we, because figuring out which residential areas, I think is pretty straightforward. It's the ones where we have 2.5 stories.
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
So the only question is, do we want to wait until next time meeting to deal with skylights?
Wait till one comes in, too, and do a
Okay.
counter to it, but.
Yeah.
Okay, so strike the last phrase dealing with installing, or skylights installation on a roof that has a pitch of 12 or less.
Right.
And then we don't need the definition of skylight because there's nowhere else in the zoning.
Don't want to lose it, but,
I think
okay.
if
I don't
we
want to
keep
take it, I
Keep
don't want to
it.
take it
I
out.
think we can keep it and then we can use it for conversations if this
Yeah,
happens,
yeah.
like what you're worried
That's-
about, that we
yeah.
have the definitions of.
Well, that's why the ceiling. So
Yeah, I
if we
think it's
use the wall of the
useful,
room,
just-
So that's actually why we did it, but then we were trying to find a way to incorporate it into the zoning.
Well, let's keep the definitions,
Yeah,
because
let's
that's
keep it.
clean.
Is that okay? Or
Yeah.
if we have a definition of a word that is not in the zoning language?
Yeah, you'll tell town meeting, we're putting
More,
this in here
yeah.
because we're thinking about doing something on this issue.
Stay
We're not ready to
tuned.
do it yet. Town meeting may say, well, why
Why are you doing that?
are we bother? On the other hand, it's,
Well, it also, I mean, if you're saying, hey, it's really that's not a dormer, it's a skylight, then
Yeah, I
you
think
can
it's
look
to
at
help
it.
us with our conversations.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I think
it's still-
So I am happy
okay with
to
that.
strike the bottom.
Okay,
all right, so we're striking
Thank
that
you.
last clause?
Thank you very much.
yes.
All right, so then I'm putting an and after 9.4.2, because now there's only 2 clauses. And we're saying it's only in the 4 districts that have half-story limits?
2.5 stories, yeah.
Well, yeah, right, with .5s in them.
Yes.
So, in the RA district, there's a 3-story limit, but you're not concerned about dormers on those buildings?
Let me pull my map.
RA is 3 stories and RB is 5 stories. 5 stories, I assume it's a flat roof.
Yeah. RA is pretty big, right?
RA is the.
Would you mind,
3
Heather
lot
Hannon,
size.
just pointing to
RA is
those
3 acre
districts?
lot
I
size,
can't-
So those are pretty big. I think we can ignore RA, because on a 3 acre lot.
We don't care what people do.
Did you say?
Oh, I just was
we
wondering
don't
if you
have that many
point to
RAs,
those.
So.
Where is RA?
RA is this, there's RA, I think, maybe that's not RA, there's RA,
These little light
Little,
green,
I see,
there's a few.
there's a few, I believe that's RA.
RA is also, isn't that where Parkview is RA?
It's I'm sorry, RDA. What is, RA is 120, my apologies. RA is
3 acre.
It's 3 acres, so. it's
Must
a
be the west
right-
side.
Good lord, I have no idea where that is.
Left, go left, I assume.
No, it's this color right there.
Yeah, isn't that the left, the whole west side of town?
No, this is RDA
Oh,
20.
okay.
There, we have really few RA 20s. Well, it's RA 120. If it's a minimal 3 acre lot, we have many other concerns rather than
Yeah.
dormers, so I'm
agree.
comfortable not having.
Okay, so this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
to apply only to our RDA, RDB, RDC, and RG, and then strike the last clause and make other changes we talked about.
Good.
Okay.
There was one other thing that doesn't appear in here, so it's not highlighted. It was in the draft that I got, the concept that I got, which was that you didn't want to make this non-conforming, these things non-conforming under 3.5.5. I wasn't sure
The
what,
current ones that don't meet this qualifications, we don't want to put them into nonconformity.
you don't want to put them into non-conformity.
The ones that are currently existing.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I know, we did it with like the driveways. So Brian, when we did the curb cuts,
Yeah.
to put them into nonconformity. I thought Brian talked to you about this.
I thought we had come up with that we didn't want them to be non-conforming because
Yeah, I think that's difficult, honestly.
Yeah,
because
I know.
if you have a house which all of a sudden has this wide dormer
Right,
and everything else on your lot is perfectly fine, but now you're non-conforming because of an architectural decision.
no.
You're
I don't
not,
think that's fair to the owner.
you're non-conforming with respect to this.
If you go forward with it.
If you go forward. So this would be grandfathering in existing.
So it wouldn't stop you from doing anything on the rest of the house because you're
Right.
not increasing that, not
They're
this.
thinking you
non-conforming.
needed to, that that'll
Oh.
trigger a special permit. I don't believe it would, but I couldn't tell you why.
Oh, right. It wouldn't trigger a special permit because you wouldn't change this non-conforming. You wouldn't-
Mine
This 50% non-conformity.
would not trigger
or
a
some other
special
frame projection,
permit.
unless you're touching those things, if you're just putting an addition on the house or something else.
Or
No, no,
doing
no.
dormers on a different plane.
They're saying if you end up with a grandfathered situation with a supersized dormer, that's because it's now a non-conforming dormer, that everything you would do going forward would require a special permit, but that's not
is it?
true, right?
If you're not
I don't think
expanding
it's-
that non-conformity.
Yes.
Right.
yes, yes.
It's irrelevant.
And
to-
that was I thought that's what I thought Brian asked about, is so that is a nonconformity in the dormer on one side of the house on most of these cases.
Right.
So on the back side, a lot of people have them. On the front side, they don't have dormers, so if they wanted to go and put dormers on the front that meet this, are they
They would be
You
fine.
want
But
to
it
build a
has
new
to do with
dormer,
the
new
existing-
dormer has to
on a
meet
different
this.
plane?
Or the same plane, has
Yeah.
to meet this.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
By the way, do you?
We just wanted to make sure that was confirmed by you.
Yep, so we're not going to do anything on 355 in this, but what I just said on the same plane, it triggered another thought. You showed in Lexington a series of dormers. People have 3 dormers across the front. The aggregate
Yes.
width of those dormers?
Yes, it's 50%.
So we need to change the language.
Yeah, the linear length of
Age dormer.
any
Any dormer.
dormers located, I got it.
Aggregate length?
Aggregate, yeah.
The sum of the widths of the dormer.
Of one or more dormers that are on the same roof plane.
Right,
shall
right.
not exceed. It's going to
Right.
get complicated.
Right.
Okay.
I would say all dormers.
Let me.
Let him, he's a writer.
I agree with the concept. I'm not sure exactly how to read it.
We will leave it to in your good hands.
That's right.
Okay, that's it. Just making a note. All right, so unfortunately, we're not settling on exact language now, which means.
That's why you're here.
I'm going to draft something. When are you going to review it again?
Do we need to? Can we leave it up to
Brian.
Dan and
Yeah, or
Brian?
Deb and Brian.
give them the authority to
Yep.
file it on
Yep.
our behalf?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I just want to say, one concern with saying one or more dormers is it implies you get to choose which dormers. that you sum up.
No, it's all.
No,
If you say the word all, yes, but if you say one or more, it
He
doesn't
was gonna
say.
say
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like aggregate.
yeah. no.
I like aggregate, yeah. but-
Aggregate net, there you
Well,
go.
aggregate
Or
is
the
some
to-
of
That holds the whole thing
No,
in.
I think we're all agreeing, so I'll do that.
Okay, so
Sorry.
when we go through and if we go tonight to vote to submit, we just need to make sure that we make a note that we are also including in the vote that we give authorization
Authorization, right.
on our behalf to do that without communication with us.
Okay, Article 10,
Yeah?
simple enough if you look.
Yeah, this
at the
one's-
reference.
I actually proposed it.
Yep.
Okay, that's,
Everybody's comfortable with it?
Yep,
There are 3 times the word attached is used.
it's in the table.
okay.
Well, hang on.
It should have, it was supposed to have gotten stricken a while ago.
So, section 3, by the way, are we calling it, I'm not sure we're calling them sections, right? It's item 3, it's line 3.
I don't know what you want to call it. You've got it too?
Are you going to Article 11?
Yeah. No, I'm on 10. Section 3 of the loading bylaw, table use is group 1.
Right.
Table use is group 1 is residential, 3 is conversion of single family, blah, 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 to 2 family, blah, blah, blah. That paragraph of the description of the conversion uses the word attached 3 times, we're taking them all out.
Yep.
Okay.
So did you want to change what section?
I may change the word section.
Change the ordering. It should be to see if the town will vote to amend the blah, 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 table of uses, group 1, comma, then put section 3. Move section 3 down. It's confusing because nobody would ever find section 3. What you're doing is Winchester zoning bylaw, table of uses,
Okay.
group 1.
Okay.
Okay?
Article 11.
Well done.
Okay, this is site plan review, 9.5, not special permit. And so I don't like this amendment. Because this amendment is, all the other paragraphs are minimize the volume of cut and fill, minimize obstruction, and glare, provide adequate stormwater management. This now is some balancing of adverse effects and benefits that is really, it's taken from the special permit section, I think, and it's more appropriate for the special permit section. I think it gums up the analysis for site plan approval. I think it confuses everything. Now, having preempted the discussion, tell me why you want this.
Well, if you put it that way, geez. So here is the existing, you want to add a new.
So what are you, I mean, I don't even remember. I wasn't, I'm not the one who brought this forward.
I did this,
But
hold on.
is
There's
it
your 11 things, okay?
minimize, but I want to understand what Art's saying. Obviously, everything else is minimized. Is it just the outweigh the adverse effects? Should it be
Well,
minimized?
I got a couple problems with it.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Outweighing is the balancing.
Right, so get rid of that.
But the whole concept of having adverse effects and minimizing adverse effects through the beneficial impacts, I don't understand what that means.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
know.
one of, I think that
And it's
you're trying
roundabout.
to, this is, which section is this? This is site plan approval.
Yeah, so 9.5.7.
Right, now, I think if you look at the language for special permits, this is an attempt to bring those together, and I don't know what special permits.
9.4.
Right,
Special permits.
So,
Isn't this trying to say that the beneficial impacts will outweigh the adverse effects?
Yes.
Yes, which is not appropriate for site plan approval.
Right.
Site plan approval, the person is permitted to do it either by right or with a special permit, and now you're looking at the site plan and you're trying to minimize various intrusions and impacts. But how's the person supposed to then show that the beneficial impacts outweigh those?
So you're saying it's too subjective?
Well, it's subjective. The whole concept of balancing benefits and burdens, benefits and impacts, is a special permit concept. It's not a site plan concept.
Exactly.
And then there's the reference to use or structure, which I don't like separately, but.
So where, do you mind if I ask the planning board, where are we falling short, do you think, that we need this? added into our site plan review? That we need to bring this into one of the decision criteria.
It sounds like someone was trying to add a subjective criteria.
Oh, I will actually say some of this is subjective. A lot of it's subjective, so I don't know if that's, I mean, that's okay with site plan review. I don't know, hard if I'm disagreeing or not, but
I think that this would allow us to,
I'm trying to tease out the different words and what was it? Is it the,
neighborhood.
is it the neighborhood? Yeah, the neighborhood's the missing piece right now in the site plan
we have
review?
something, criterion number 1 minimizes unreasonable departure from the character, materials, and scale of buildings in the vicinity as viewed from the public ways and places. So that seems to
Yeah.
take into account the neighborhood at some level.
Excuse me.
It does not take into account, say, traffic. I'm just thinking of adverse effects that aren't incorporated by number 1.
Well, it's,
That's
you
right.
can keep the minimize any adverse effect on the town or the neighborhood. It's the,
That seems to be really.
it's the outweighing and the beneficial and the,
But I don't know what an adverse, this is a really broad statement.
well, 2 is, 9.5.7.2 is minimize any adverse effect on any historic resource. It's in there. It's actually in the
Right.
So,
site plan. It's just the balancing act that you have to have things that are
It's
more
the outweigh, I
beneficial.
guess.
It's the outweigh portion that I
okay.
think is the issue. So if I remember correctly, in our conversations, it was brought in that the neighborhood wasn't given, that a lot of, the site plan is dealing with the massing and the scale and.
Right.
And a
the
lot of
actual
it's
neighborhood. We're
residential,
focusing so
yeah.
much on historic that the actual overall neighborhood wasn't getting, wasn't,
Was getting short shrift.
yes.
So why is it that the first criterion up there doesn't encompass that?
And so.
It's really, because the number 1, I guess, is, it's kind of not very helpful if you're sitting on a board, you're saying, well, minimize the unreasonable departure. You're saying, it's probably an unreasonable departure, but it's not, I'm going to reduce the unreasonableness of it. So it's not very good. You do want something that's a little more, like, we want it to be good.
But if the language we're going to adopt only uses the word minimized, then it has the exact same outcome.
Well, if you want, if this is intended to be a catch-all, minimize any other adverse effects on the town or the neighborhood, period.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay,
That's
that's a
good.
catch-all. If you think that the current list of 11
yeah,
doesn't
we'll take that.
doesn't give you
Let's
that
just buy it.
broader perspective, that's fine.
Yeah, good. That's
But-
good.
but-
It's
but
an
Going beyond
improvement.
the catch-all to having, to importing
You sold it.
balancing or benefits.
Sold.
Okay, so.
Exactly, without getting too far.
Say it
down
again,
into the
though,
weeds,
for
we're not gonna
us.
do
Make sure we've all got it
specifics.
from you.
Is
Minimize,
that
yeah,
Can you say,
Let's go with the language.
can you say what the language is again?
minimize any other adverse effects on the town or the neighborhood, period?
Yeah.
yeah.
And so, okay.
Is adverse effects ever defined anywhere?
Nope.
No.
We've been
It's
through this.
impossible
We've
to
been through it,
define.
yeah. We're not going to.
So, does the board then feel that the current language does not accomplish this? Which is the second statement, I guess.
I'm okay with it.
I mean, you hate to just throw things in as a catch-all to say, well, we couldn't think of anything else, so we're just gonna.
Well, and, I mean, you're at town meeting, and one of the opponents stands
Hands
up
up, right.
and says, look, you just added the 11th thing, historic resources, and you just beefed these up in certain other ways, I don't remember. Now you want to come back and add this broad amorphous category for any other adverse impacts. This is too much discretion, no standards, and I urge my fellow town meeting
Meeting
members
members to
to vote
vote this
against it.
down.
I
Yes.
think,
Okay, how do you respond? I mean, is there a case where you needed that catch-all that you didn't have it?
I think it's number 2. So number 2 is minimize any adverse effect on any historic resource and the neighborhood. It's not just the historic resources, and
It's the
so.
neighborhood.
Well, 2 was added specifically for historic resources.
I know, but that's what's missing
Yeah,
from that.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think we need the
There's-
town. The town is a
Is a much
very
bigger
broad,
thing.
but I think it's the neighborhood that is being left out of.
I would keep
I'm
town.
I was role-playing there, just
Yeah, yeah,
how
good.
would you respond to that?
Right.
town meeting
Well,
member's
because
point.
the
Why do you need-
word neighborhood never
Why do you need
appears
to think of
anywhere.
this again and broaden it again?
And there may be times, I'd have to think about it, but I don't see why I wouldn't. There might be something that's really, it does something detrimental to the town, or the town's invested in some project or some
It leaves it
property.
so broad.
But this
It's
is, this,
really broad, and
Yeah.
I'm really finding it difficult. If
Well,
I
then
were
use
to-
neighborhood.
I don't know why, I still don't understand why number one doesn't accomplish this.
Because
Why?
it was visible. Because that's departure, we're talking about adverse effects.
Right, but I'm trying to understand, we're talking about residential, well, no, they're not residential properties. I don't think, these are just, this is site plan review, which currently I believe is residential properties.
Not entirely, no, it's also, the GBD 2 and 3 have site plan review, if I recall
That's-
correctly.
Well, you know what, in number one, you can actually just take out vicinity, put in neighborhood.
We could change the word vicinity to neighborhood. It is correct that people are, that it only is what's visible from public ways. I'm finding it, I'm still trying to understand what someone would do.
There could be something on a backyard,
Yeah, it's a backyard.
the back of a house,
I
that
think
could
it
be
had to
very
do with the
aggressive.
backyard.
Oh, yeah, don't get rid of that.
But
So
that can be
it had to do,
problematic.
that's why the neighborhood was being brought in, is because people were bringing, and it wasn't.
Back to those third stories that are looming over people.
Third stories is going with these, because one of the triggers is the square footage of some of the houses are so big that the public way was okay, but the backyards were getting.
What if we
Yeah,
just
we're
take
getting
out
wiped
the
out.
part that says as viewed from public ways?
That's, I mean, I admit that we did have a decision about a project on, where are those two little ponds off of?
Winter and summer?
Winter and summer, where they were building what was essentially a full 3 stories on the back, but because the pond is technically public way, you could see it, and then we said that that was inappropriate. From the front, on the street that it was actually, had frontage on, you didn't even notice they were doing something, but in the back, it was ginormous.
And by the way, if it's backing on a pond, that's something where the town might have an
Might
interest.
have an interest, right? 'Cause-
Yeah.
yeah, 'cause it- yeah,
So
'cause
I
it-
don't
want-
public
I sort of like,
Right.
just leave this new number 12 and keep it simple.
So I guess I would agree with number 12. So we do have an instance where, and we certainly have instances where people have built homes on slopes where the neighbors see a 4-story complex
Yep.
because they get, the sub-basement, the basement, the
Right,
garage.
right,
and
sub-
keep going.
Right, right.
So, okay, so I think we have a response to the question as to why do we need this.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for,
For prompting that discussion.
I'm forcing you, if you're going back to town meeting and using a little more political capital in the same section you just amended, I want to force you to
Yeah.
be able
Let
to
the
defend
folks
it.
think about it.
okay, so what we have right now is minimize any other adverse effects on the neighborhood. Okay. I guess we're all okay.
You want that?
Oh, I thought we were gonna leave it on the town, because I was saying, what if it's like Wedge Pond or something, and the
That's
town
the
may
neighborhood
have...
though, that's still a neighborhood. It still falls into the neighborhood, Wedge Pond is.
Yeah,
part
but
of
it's a
it.
different perspective.
Well, it is another one, because for instance, what if someone were building something up against the cemetery?
Right.
That's the neighborhood
That's the
of the
town.
cemetery.
No, the neighborhood, the cemetery is not a neighborhood.
talking
My
about
former
private.
neighborhood's all in the same location at Wildwood Cemetery, but it's not a neighborhood.
I know, and we did have that come up a couple of years ago.
let's-
There you go, so that's why you need town embedded, because the
Yeah,
cemetery is not
Is the
considered.
cemetery a historic resource?
Yes, it
Yes.
is, actually.
It's already covered under 2.
Well, yeah, but I'd like to see the town.
Okay, let's say, right, it is covered under, but there must be some.
The waterways are not.
What's wrong with
The
including the
waterways
town?
I think are public way. I mean, am I correct, Art, in saying waterways are public ways? You don't-
Yeah, the
you
Conservation
the public
Commission
is-
oversees
So
them.
anything
Well,
that's,
it
And
depends
it's
on
on
the,
the-
I guess. I mean, it can be,
if it's,
if it's a stream going through my yard, it's not a public way.
That's
It's
true.
not subject to Concom jurisdiction, but that's different.
right, but the 2 ponds whose names I always forget.
Well,
Winter.
Also Upper Mystic Lake. I mean, there are all sorts of,
What are the 2 ponds, Winter and?
Winter Pond, at the very least, is a public,
Thank you.
sort of, what was it?
Big Winter and Little Winter.
Okay, pre-winter, so
Good one.
this is pre-global warming and post-global warming. Okay.
So you want the town?
I'd like the town.
I don't have I agree. Let's keep it.
I don't have a big hoop.
It'll take into account too all the conservation, all the forest. all
Right,
the-
right.
The forest will come into play.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
town
the
forest,
language
you're
is,
Town forest is a good example.
Minimize any other adverse effects on the town or the neighborhood.
Yeah, actually, town forest is an excellent example.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go, town forest, let Brian know.
12.
13, 12, well,
So that was the straightforward.
12's okay?
I think so. Let's see, let's make sure.
And something got chopped
So
off.
that's the parking space. Yes.
Okay.
So some of the formatting
Yeah,
has gotten messed up,
true.
which I will clean up.
Thank you.
Which are we talking about, formatting on?
Of his page, it's just like that.
The
yeah.
clause, or take any direction in relation thereto, is
Right.
supposed to be at the margin. I'll, planning board is supposed to be in the middle.
Right.
Okay.
So.
Rezoning a bunch of parcels?
No,
rezoning
it's
bunch
my,
of parcels.
nope. You've got this floor area ratio that I am still opposed to.
Right, but we're here to discuss.
Sorry, I thought we just went through 13. Okay.
We're here just to discuss Art's take on the language.
I do know that, but I just
So,
couldn't.
yeah.
Well, if you want to discuss it, substantively, you can.
We voted to go forward with the,
Okay. And the language appears to do that.
okay. Article 14. Further review needed.
What one is that?
We are on the table on page 3 of
No, I mean, what is the,
what is 14,254? I do not know which one it is. GDB 3 and RG, it's split. Let's see, if we go to the town code section.
Unfortunately, I could not get WinCam's last meeting yet, so it's not on mine. I spoke to them today again.
It's on my DVR at home, but I can't hand it to you.
How did you get it?
I think they taped it actually off of real cable.
Oh, I'm sorry, I understood. Okay, well, we just lost our cable box, so everything.
Yeah, we used to have to do that all the time.
They said it'll be up, but it'll be up tomorrow morning.
Oh, this is the new Chrome that requires you to sign into your stupid Google account. Yes, and also, so let's just go here. And then to government.
So I didn't get the feedback yet of Article 14. Did anyone have any updates on how that went?
There was, we had a number of people who were for it.
Quite a few,
We
actually.
had a number of people who were a property owner, 2 property owners, I believe.
About
came forward.
2, yeah, there weren't that, actually not that
And,
many.
And I had a call from counsel for a property owner. Counsel called me because she and I were both involved in a case in the zoning appeal involving hot tubs.
Oh, okay.
For the case. She thought since we had been co-defendants in that case, she could pick up the phone and call me and express her client's opposition to the rezoning. I don't know which parcel it is, it's a split parcel.
the blonde one?
Don't know, I know her name, I don't
We
know.
did have a public records request from someone who I believe,
Maybe.
or maybe the same person.
The woman in the two-family with Robert.
So the attorney was blonde,
Yes.
tall blonde woman, Jennifer Roma from
Yes, that was the
Nelson
person.
Mullins.
So,
Okay.
where
Is there anything to add? No?
I said I don't know anything about it, I'll talk to Brian and see why they're doing it. I talked to Brian, I understood why they're doing it, and haven't gotten back to it.
954 Main Street is, I believe, the parcel in question. Let's go to-
So, one of the things I did with Brian today, to go over this, is we looked, because I was reading the feedback actually on social media, which is very informative, from a lot of residents regarding this, which it actually was very interesting to hear people's take on it. And a lot of it had to do with revenue of the commercial, and they want more commercial revenue out of this area. However, the way it's zoned, it's, first floor would be commercial and the upper stories would be residential.
But that's the Verizon building.
The Verizon building.
It has a very strange.
That's an
back-
old school too.
Yeah, the back part is actually,
And there's a
Yes.
got a part.
yeah, so if we go back to here and we look at,
So, and so we looked, for example, like the revenue of like Fells Hardware right now, as an example. They're assessed at 500,000. And that's a pretty fairly large lot. That's much larger than we
Right.
would get in this region, even if we joined the two parcels together.
Right.
And so the commercial isn't gonna bring in enough revenue to do what we analyzed today. If, you know, they wanna go deeper so we can get
Right.
bigger and bigger commercial, you're not gonna get enough revenue. And the impact on the neighborhood is gonna be too detrimental to offset.
But yeah, I'm
So if they're valued at
both sides,
500,000, and just ballpark, it's somewhere in probably $8,000 in tax revenue we're getting off those commercial lots. And that is like nothing compared to
but,
other
but
options.
getting back to, Art, your question is essentially, this is an unfinished table, because it says further review.
In that one respect, yeah.
And the question here is, this is essentially being used as a parking lot for the Verizon building. And I don't know how, well, maybe we can turn it around. I don't know how you use this to turn it around.
Too many trees.
So,
Wait for you, I'm doing a control.
oh, there you go.
I saw that.
Whoa.
So this is the section right here, which is residential. It is currently a parking lot with perhaps a few trees on that lot. I don't know why this is further review needed. I think maybe when Brian and I went through here, we just didn't reach a conclusion. I don't recall. So we will clean that up. In my opinion, well, I guess the concern I had was that it does go deep into this neighborhood.
Right.
This is actually just a triangle that no house is on, or most of it is just greenery.
Yeah.
So the question is, this goes deep into the neighborhood, but it is currently an existing business, it is a commercial use. And the criteria we had is, if it is a commercial use now, and looks like it has been for some time, then we would leave it as GDD.
Sure.
And
But
so,
that's risky because it's not actually built on as commercial. Wouldn't you prefer to see a residential building there?
Yes,
but it's
yes.
a question of if we are setting rules for, if we're being uniform about saying, we are trying to codify existing use.
I'm just saying a parking lot is different to me than a commercial building.
I agree.
It's
Well,
like-
Then we have to go and we have to look at the plumbing business over here, which is essentially, it looks like it's a very low slung building, almost looks like a house. And they've essentially turned the area around it into parking and they put a storage in the back. But that is definitely commercial looking.
But it's a residential.
So if we,
Yeah, I wouldn't want to take away those residential.
no, that's,
Let's take a look at it.
it's, where the heck is it?
Would you want
It's right, oh, am I gone too far?
I think so.
I think you're more.
It's right here. I believe that is the,
Oh, yeah, they just paved their yard.
no, that's not it. Oh, it's JJ Loftus.
Yeah, I know those guys.
Glenwood Avenue.
So, can we just go there? So, that's not right.
Charlie, you're in the right area though.
There it is. So, this is, so, as you can see, there's an existing single-family home. And there is a shed or something in the back for storage, pardon me, I didn't think of it being in it. Let's try again. Okay, so this has been commercial for a very long time.
Yes.
But it does have, I mean, from the perspective of the neighbors, that is parking. They could build all the way out, but we've said this has been commercial forever. regardless of where the position of the buildings are, it's a commercial use, and so we said leave it in GBD. So the only other, so that's why, if we flip to the other side, and now we now look at the Verizon thing.
Weren't we
It's
also
commercial.
looking at what's across the street from each of these parcels, and if a house is across the street, then?
It's
we
one
want to keep it
concern,
out.
but this,
That's one thing,
I mean, that's why this is still up in the air. And one of my concerns is that we don't have a uniform application of these concepts.
Yes.
People will think we're cherry picking.
Yeah, exactly.
And
We don't want to do
Says
that.
commercial
Well, but
needs to be zoned as
you,
commercial.
Heather Hannon, was using an application. What, phrase it again, the way you did? What's across the street?
One of our criteria was if there's a house across the street, and we keep it residential and protect it from then being commercial across from someone's house.
Except that's on Main Street. There's residential on Main Street that has commercial across the street.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a concern. I don't know that it's certainly the criteria that Brian and I looked at was what is the existing usage?
Right.
And there are certainly commercial uses which are currently across from residential structures.
Exactly, especially on Main Street.
And there are commercial uses which abut residential structures. So, I mean, I don't know who's more bothered by the Verizon, the person across the street or the person who lives right next to it. I mean, so so these people will always be next to commercial, or I should say, we can walk up or move up Main Street and notice that just essentially, this is next to commercial. So we were just trying to be uniform about saying existing use. Because we thought that going any further would introduce things we could not quantify, in the sense they would be
Yeah.
subjective, not objective, but subjective.
Do you think the parking lot is commercial? We don't allow parking lots in residential.
I mean, here,
If it's being used by a commercial business, then it's
It's commercial, yeah.
If you leave it as commercial, and the proposal is to change it to residential, right?
The proposal is further review needed.
But all of these are going toward residential.
No, but in this
No.
case, he's saying that he's leaning towards commercial.
If you keep it as commercial, it could get built on subject to other
That's what I'm saying,
regulations.
so.
If you make it residential, then it's grandfathered for its current commercial
exactly,
use.
that's right.
But could not be built on, because they could not change the commercial use without special.
Well, I mean, but it still could be anything that's allowed under that previous zoning, right?
No,
No.
No, only
What's
the
built.
grandfathered use would be,
which is the
Right.
parking.
What's built and how it's used could be retained.
So the grandfather use of the parking could be maintained.
yeah.
The reality is,
It may
it's
be-
gonna go,
Maybe.
and it's gonna be a giant building eventually,
We
and
don't know
what's
what
the
will
impact?
happen. I mean, Verizon owns the building, we don't know what their plans are for it.
Verizon owns the one where
The one we're talking about.
The one we're talking about is the one that Verizon.
they're
owns.
renting? I thought that they don't own it.
No, they own it.
The business.
They own it.
No,
They
but
own it.
The old
So-
school, it's the old school on Main Street.
Oh, that was a school?
There was a new one.
Oh, I thought
So-
Newton Glen's up on Canal Street.
Oh, yeah, yeah, no, I'm sorry.
I think it was a school.
I don't want to shortcut the discussion. I don't know if you're moving toward a decision on this, or if you need just more time on this.
It either needs to go to a commercial residential. I'm fine at this point leaving it as commercial. We're gonna look at rezoning anyway, so this is a temporary, in my mind, just a
How is it?
no, it won't be though.
Well,
It's hard to go back on one lot, you just don't. You do it all.
This is when we do this, I don't think we're gonna get another chance.
I agree.
But I really am concerned if we go to town meeting that we have to explain that we are removing, we have decided that this is different from the other
No,
commercial
I would
lot that
say,
we allowed.
I'll just try it this way, but I want to hear from Heather Hannon. So I'll just say briefly, what we are doing with every one of these parcels, which, I'm fine looking at this map, but I'm thinking of that zoning map, is what would full build-out under GBD 3 in this case, what would full build-out look like and the impact it'll have on the side streets.
Yeah.
And to my mind, the impact is considerable, and people are just starting to get what GBD 2 and 3 are with that building that's going up right now with the framing, and
Yeah.
I think people are kind of shocked. So to me, that's the goal. And all what you were saying isn't the goal. The goal to me is envision full build out.
Yeah, and Maureen said that much better than
It's
the way
also-
I said it, but that's what I meant, that I guess I'm not comfortable with the way you guys did this if it doesn't take into account some of our concerns about getting rid of like the small scale right behind Main Street, and then also small scale of what's across the street and next to it, and then having
Right.
something big be allowed there all of a sudden for no reason, which is to clean up zoning. I mean, that seems
Right.
risky to me.
Right.
Well, I think I will speak in our defense, and that we did take into account, and that's, we did actually, there are two, essentially two lots which fall under a rezoning to, or keeping it as GBD, that are of any import. And one is the JJ Loftus, and the other one is this one. And so we acknowledge, I mean, that's why it's further review needed. This was not one where we said, yeah, we feel like it has to go
That's what it is,
commercial.
yeah.
My concern, again, is that we need to present, I mean, maybe I misstated what Brian and I did and made it look like we were just
Looking at use.
looking at use, but we did discuss
Well,
aspects of each property, and this one was, we felt kind of weird saying, okay, essentially a third of your property, we are going to reclassify.
essentially, who? I didn't
A
hear.
third of the property is being reclassified back to residential.
No, I thought here it is shown as residential,
No, this is,
that blue piece.
the blue piece is actually, I don't know why the colors are this. The lot lines are all 150 feet away from Main Street. So this is GBD.
I don't think that one gets rezoned, it's all one parcel.
This is, yeah, I don't understand what this line is. Let me just say right away, I don't understand why it's showing like that. Maybe there's an error in the map, because it is a single parcel.
That's the
450 feet.
100-foot line, right?
That's the 150-foot line.
Is what it's showing.
So then why is it blue in part of that?
Because when they drew the 150-foot line, everything on one side was residential, everything else was on commercial, and it's split lots, and this
Okay.
one is split.
So this one.
So this one has to remain as commercial.
So obviously there's, I think I'm currently confused by what we see in front of us. It certainly seems to appear that part of that is residential and part of that is commercial.
So what are they allowed to build there now?
But I'm sorry, on the map,
Am I looking at the wrong one?
no, you're looking at the right one, but it's colored differently on the handout that I have.
It's colored on yellow.
Yeah, yes.
Because that's the 150-foot line, and that's why it's to be determined, because
But it's not just 150, so where that cursor is also orange on my map, but the line also goes straighter across than on in the handout. Goes straight across to meet the line that's in the triangle.
Yeah.
And so that's,
Oh, yeah.
and
That's
that-
right.
so I don't
Brilliant.
understand.
Yes, that is, I agree, that's weird. Let me go and,
okay, I think some of it's residential and some of it is commercial.
this is wrong somehow.
And it's zoning, it's half of it's one and half is other, it's mainly commercial.
Um,
It is one parcel though. I think that parking lot is one parcel
But
of
it's
that
a
building.
totally different shape of this map.
But go to the
Well,
accessories.
what's happened on the map, on this map, is that this line extends straight across here,
Right.
and this is
Right.
not even
Yeah,
included.
right.
So I think there's a problem with this map here.
Me too.
So why don't we ignore this, and
Okay.
then we'll have to go back. I will speak
We
with
can look at the
both
accessories
parties.
department too, the accessories.
I talked to Brian about it.
We can do that in a minute.
We can do that in a
Okay.
minute. I mean, obviously, we still have work to do on this. So let me get a feeling from the board as to, if it turns out that the parking area falls in the current RG, you wish it to remain in current RG.
I'd like it to remain with the residential, which is RG. And the reason I'd like to have it remain in RG is because it's open. As it's used. However, if it is all one parcel, and it is one large parcel, and that parking lot is combined with, I would like it to be commercial,
Okay, let's just take 20 seconds, go to
the assessors.
the assessors.
Sorry, Art.
I do know that for some, well, Art, did you get a chance to look at the article that came, Article 9? It's not in the paper that, or in the copy that.
What's it about?
It's about changing the site plan review criteria to include, this is something that I presented at our last meeting and a couple people weren't here. It was in response to someone essentially turning an existing home into a garage and building a 4,000 square foot home on the side of it, which is allowed under our zoning. And so the language said that a total, we already have a total floor area, minimum floor area requirement for coming in for site plan review, and this would say that a percent increase in the total floor area greater or equal to essentially 150% would also bring us into this site plan review.
I haven't seen that.
Okay, so
Have to look at that while you do it.
yeah, so I'll pull up, and obviously you need more time than just that because we're going to assessors, so let's go to this strange thing. Assessors. Let's go to database. And this is Main Street.
And I'm sorry, other board members have seen this?
Yeah.
It was in our packet, the
Yeah.
last one, and it was something that just came in because the particular example of what happened was just.
The example we're all familiar with.
Yeah, so,
Well, you just write the parcel up there, 14,254.
I'm sorry, which one is that?
Right there, put it 14.
254?
No, just this place. There. 14.
So, I don't want you to do two things at once. You tell me when I'm talking about this.
There's space between the floors too.
I tried that. No, it's the C word.
So it's a 40,
There should be a plot line on here somewhere.
41,000.
There should be a plot line.
It's 9.59 acres. Can you go to the other one? That showed up.
There was another one. There's only one.
Yeah, no, but click on it and again.
Good.
What an exterior.
Doesn't say anything about. Okay, so this isn't helping us, so,
It's half, it's 1 acre though.
yeah.
So leads me to believe the parking lot is all.
Well, I will,
Okay.
so if the parking lot is an RG, the board wants it to remain an RG. If the parking lot is not an RG, but it is currently GBD, the board wants it to remain GBD, or does the board want it to? Because at that point, we have to actually,
Yes.
We have to create a cutting.
we have to create another parcel or something. No, we don't have to create another parcel. We have to actually go out and measure it and do a survey and figure out where that line is.
If it's GBD now, it's GBD. If it's RG, it's RG.
I mean, one of the problems of, we considered what we would need to do to go out and do surveys of all of these, and it's just insanely expensive.
Yeah.
So we did it via lot numbers, properties.
Which makes sense.
Which makes, so, okay, so I think I understand what the board wants, and I will work on that with Brian, and we'll figure out why these maps are wacky.
Okay, so this one is still further review?
Yeah.
What's
Well-
the Highland, what's your highlight of Highland Ave / North Border Road? What does that mean?
We'll get there.
Okay.
Okay, so why don't we do,
Just a
Oh,
question.
I'm sorry, guys.
Question on the table, you've got colons between these two parcel references? Not sure why.
It should be and.
Or semicolons?
I believe they should be and.
Should be and.
I don't know what that format means, so let's just, and I don't know why they're split out separately. Oh, I think, I don't know why they're split out separately.
Well, they're all this,
I was going to the same thing.
I will, well, we'll figure it out.
each one of those with a colon in it is in 2 districts.
That's weird.
It is
Yeah.
weird.
Some of the others are also in 2 districts, but each of those is.
Okay, I will review this with Brian and make sure we clarify that.
Okay,
Okay.
well done.
Maybe the colon is through, like all the numbers between those numbers?
They're all consecutive numbers.
Assume nothing, right?
Assume nothing, just
No,
find
not all
out,
consecutive.
talk to Brian, figure it out.
So we're on Article 15?
Yeah, because on the next table, the page on the next, it's and, the word and already.
Okay. So Article 15, that's essentially just a placeholder. We don't know what the plan will be called. It's the survey plan is going to show parcels A and B. So this is rezoning them as part of that deal with Miller.
Yep.
He has now been awarded the contract, awarded the project.
The RFC, yeah, he got the RFC.
So his RFP was chosen, his proposal was chosen. We're going to work out a contract with him, a memorandum of understanding of some kind, or development agreement.
Right.
He's putting in for subdivision approval, which he has not yet done.
Right, that would come.
But I know you had some meetings, or some of you have been in some meetings, I think, with them. Anyway, this is just one of the articles, this may get tabled if project isn't ready, or, because he won't have his subdivision approval, according to Brian, by the time of town meeting.
Oh, no.
We don't even have him on the docket to get in front of us to talk about it. so-
Because he hasn't even applied for it.
He hasn't applied for it.
Right.
And we
So
are,
therefore, the chances of that happening are slim.
in our hearing for these warrant articles is in 2 weeks. 1 week, I forget.
1 week.
1 week, okay.
So what does that mean, your times of?
It means we would, the only time we'd have to determine if the board wants to take it up would be our next meeting.
No, I understand that, and we're kind of swamped at the moment, but in
Well,
terms
it
of
means
overall.
you're going to propose this rezoning, but it may get tabled at town meeting.
That's right.
Or may get withdrawn.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Without
yeah.
the subdivision being approved? How can we approve a subdivision without the zoning being changed?
We won't be doing the subdivision. We will be doing just the zoning itself.
Your subdivision approval won't come till after town meeting, so you'd rezone it.
Is the transfer of the land condition of the subdivision being approved?
Yes.
Okay,
That's the issue, because the transfer of the land has to go through town meeting.
that's right.
But
We're doing what we can.
You're raising a good question, and I'm not sure these are in the right sequence anymore. If there's no, I thought he'd have the subdivision approval, and then which would be contingent on rezoning, and then the rezoning happens. To make the rezoning contingent on subdivision approval is not, you don't usually do that. You
No,
rezone
that's
it.
why,
No,
You
that
rezone or you
would
don't
be put,
rezone.
that would be put in the target.
and town meeting will never go for approving it without knowing exactly what it is.
Exactly.
So currently.
Well, Brian thought that's not so much of an issue. But the fact is,
You
it
remember
won't be approved.
We will not have subdivision approval by then, so
Right.
that's just a statement
That's
of
why.
fact.
it's
So
right.
whatever
So
happens.
then this may not happen just for that reason, because town meeting won't rezone it unless the deal is going through.
Right.
And the deal goes through only if there's subdivision approval.
Yeah.
But why would we do subdivision approval if it's not zoned for that?
It would be conditioned
It would be
on.
conditioned.
It would be conditioned, it would be a conditional vote.
It'd be one of the conditions of the approval.
See,
Right.
And then when we rezone it?
We would have to.
It would either have to be a special town meeting or,
Or the spring.
or the spring, either one, either one.
So,
What are you thinking?
I was just wondering if the timing of like if that's too long.
but the timing
It's
also,
too long for Miller. He may back out of the whole deal.
when did he get the approval from the select board?
Last night.
last night.
Last night. Oh, so maybe it's coming in today, it's coming in tomorrow.
What, subdivision application?
Brian,
But we can't,
Brian was going back and forth with Miller. Miller thinks he's effectively already applied, and Brian says, no, you need to actually apply with all the forms and the parts of it.
yeah, and I mean, he has certainly come before the board and.
A number of times, we haven't seen it, but we haven't seen an application yet.
We haven't seen an application.
and
Right.
53G is going to come into play.
Yeah, but we haven't seen an application.
See, so Miller thinks he's already effectively paid for peer review, paid for the engineering review before the application, which he did. So he's not going to be happy if there's got to be another peer review process with more 53G funding.
I don't know what Brian said in his memo. That's coming from Brian in his.
All I know is that the board still hasn't given up any, I mean, as part of the subdivision, we may decide we need 53G, but we
Right.
can't decide that until we see the subdivision.
That's right.
Right, and it's not on the agenda tonight anyway. All this is in the context of approving the language of this warrant article, and that's all.
Yeah, and right now, we don't have the article in front of us, we know the subdivision won't be approved by then.
We do have the article in front of us, but it's not.
Well, we don't have the meat of the article, we don't have, we can't vote on anything that's
Yeah.
in this, okay.
That is still, how should we say, in the ether.
Yeah. Okay, so we can move on.
So you don't want to approve 15 until you see the survey plan and see exactly what's.
Well, one of the concerns we have is the number
Might
of
keep me as a
neighbors.
placeholder.
Yeah, we need to see the survey plans. The number of the neighbors have been concerned that the lot lines that they think are being drawn are incorrect. And we told them that that's something we would make sure was
Is
done
someone-
correctly.
Is it surveyed?
I believe it
Being
was,
surveyed.
it's being surveyed.
Okay.
So that he can't apply for subdivision without that survey? Because he can't apply
Right.
for a subdivision using incorrect lot lines.
Well, he can't apply for.
The town is doing the survey.
The town is surveying, yes, the town is surveying.
Our land or his land?
We're not surveying his land.
You are.
The only surveying we would be doing is against the SCI part.
Well, maybe not, because you're also surveying part of lot 6 that's coming to the town up in the back.
Okay, so,
A and B are going to him, and 6 is coming to the
right,
town.
so I guess the word is that we don't know. Things are still up in the air, but I'm not comfortable with, until we know that the neighbors' concerns about where the lot lines are addressed.
Right.
I mean, we need to see the lot
They're
lines.
concerned about the rear lot line, the lot line bordering them,
Yeah, which
Yes.
is not our land,
and I don't know that that's being surveyed.
which he can't apply, well, I mean, he can apply, but it's hard to apply
Well,
for
there-
subdivision when you don't know your lot lines.
One of the, yeah, well, we certainly need those, we need that survey to be done before we look at the subdivision plan, because we need to make sure that the neighbor's property isn't being built on.
Right, and that's right.
So
But in terms of approving the rezoning article,
we don't need to know that in order to get the zoning article, that is correct.
but you do want to see the plan of what parcels are being rezoned.
Yeah.
And you know conceptually.
Yeah, we know what it is
Yeah, we know
conceptually. I think
conceptually.
we can, at this point, put it on on however you choose to put it, because it's really your thing at this point, because we know what we have to do, but it's not in our court right now. It's not in our court, because there is no subdivision.
Right, so
So it's outside of our court. I think at this point, the planning board can go forward with it, because we can always pull it at a different
I
time.
trust that the town's surveying will be done to our satisfaction. And if that's sufficient,
That seems reasonable, but we don't have it in front of us.
yeah, but the question is, would we, even if we had it in front of us, what would we do with it? None of us are gonna go walk the
Walk the plank on that one.
Well, I was gonna say the means, the
Meets.
bounds and meets and bounds.
We can continue to keep this as a placeholder, though, at this
Well,
point.
We should vote, I think, well, we have not yet voted to say that this is going onto the town warrant.
Right.
And so if we want to do that, then we should do this now and say, we're gonna vote it in on the condition that it gets filled in with all the appropriate lot lines, just along the town land and Miller's land. And the lot lines between Miller's land and the other people's will be our concern when we get to subdivision. Is that an acceptable?
So this is going to be filled in with the name and date of a plan,
Which we don't have yet.
right?
but it won't be meets and bounds in the warrant article.
Isn't it usually? Don't we usually have a description of it's so many feet from here and there? Everything else I've seen about transferring properties is always very specific about.
In the town meeting, if it's calling for transfer.
So if we're going to rezone, we need to be rezoning a known parcel.
The motion will be that.
For the motion, yeah.
The article I don't think needs to be, but if you're saying it usually is, okay.
Okay, I may be confusing the background with the motion. They always seem, I assume it will be done appropriately and that somewhere there will be meets and bounds on a piece of paper so that we know what we're
There
rezoning.
will be, the question is whether you need that at the warrant stage.
I do not know.
Well, depends. I mean, if the warrant's going out, and people are being noticed about it, then, yeah, that's the point at which I think it really needs to be done.
All right, you want to see meets and bounds?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say, because that's when everybody will really be starting to really look at it carefully.
I mean, it seems like this is also a question for the town clerk.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Well, and
Town meeting moderator, isn't it?
Yes. And
it's
yes.
the moderator too.
Yes.
All right, do you need to see meets and bounds before you approve this rezoning, since you know what parcels we're
I
talking
don't
about?
think we need to see meets and bounds, because I think we just are going to assume that the surveyor's done their job well and that that's it.
But you want to see the warrant article filled in with meets and bounds before it goes?
Well, before the warrant is released.
Yeah.
Before the warrant is published for the town, it does have to be filled in, because at that point, I don't think it's going to change things.
Because that way people need to know what they're going to be voting on.
Yeah.
And the map usually is included in the information.
Exactly.
So my perspective is I don't have a problem as the planning board supporting this going on, but there's a lot of work that needs to go behind it.
Yeah.
That's outside of.
Right, exactly. And if it doesn't, then,
Okay, so, we haven't actually officially voted on this one yet?
No, we haven't voted it on
You
a
don't.
lot of them.
Yeah, right, you don't until after your hearing.
We need to vote, don't we have to vote that it's going to go?
We have to
That's your
submit it.
hearing.
Okay.
No, but
Well, you submit it.
don't we have to vote to submit it?
Well, I
We have to vote to submit it.
So you have to vote that you're going to take it up at your hearing, right? So where
Yeah.
you're submitting, you're not submitting it anywhere yet, right?
Right, we're going to vote to take it up at the hearing.
yes, that's
Okay.
right.
It doesn't have to be submitted to the town clerk to go into the booklet?
That's,
It technically,
well, yes,
We have
but we're
to-
not at that stage yet.
we've got placeholders, and there is a final closing on the 5th, I believe, when final language has to be in from us. It's 2 days after our hearing next week.
Okay.
So, I believe that's the,
It's a Friday.
yeah,
Our hearing's on the 2nd.
right.
Okay, so we have it in as a placeholder, and we have until Friday the 5th to then go and make
It's certainly,
modifications.
it's been publicly announced as part of our hearing. And we could,
Yes.
so it's all in the open, so we could, I mean, I think we can just decide we want to go forward with it. We could wait until next week, or we could do it now. I don't know that makes a difference.
So we wait and see what we can get.
Okay, so the only, I've got
It's not
a,
gonna hurt us.
ask clerk and town moderator about requirement for meets and bounds on the warrant. Okay.
Because you have to have a pretty good description of land.
So what are you actually voting tonight? Yeah, because you haven't voted on any, it's just.
Yeah, we're not, but we
Well, some of
haven't.
these we've already voted, and typically, when we get something from Brian, he highlights which ones we have already voted in and which ones we haven't. And
So I know for sure.
I didn't mark my copy with the copy that Brian gave us in the original packets. And can someone tell me which ones are highlighted and which ones aren't?
Article 9, we made changes to, that is the dormers.
Right.
Article 11, which is,
No, I mean the earlier one, that's the one from tonight.
oh, I don't have the other one.
Here, I have those.
Yeah.
It's the one about dormers.
Okay, so we have voted to, did we want to vote to go forward with that? I don't want to waste Art's time. We can do that
Yeah,
next
this
week.
is-
Yeah, so why don't we, let's just not vote on it anymore. We only have 10 minutes more of Art's time here. I I certainly want to go home early, and we still have to do meeting minutes.
I don't call it early.
Okay, well, let's go until we draw.
What about the last thing you?
So this draft article, it was Article 9, yes.
So I'm going to actually correct the formatting on all of these things that I'm having.
Right, good.
I'm going to redraft Article 9, we made changes to 11 on the site plan criteria. You're not sure about this one parcel in table on 14.
And we will, Brian and I will resolve that this Thursday, for meeting.
Okay.
In Article 15, who's taking on that responsibility? Because you're the one communicating with the applicant.
Yeah, no, we'll have to.
And you're
No,
gonna-
no, on those parcels.
And you're going to coordinate with engineering because they're the one responsible for the surveying.
I will bring that up with Brian and make sure the surveys are done.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'll talk to Brian with both an I and a Y.
Article 10 also had some edits too that you did, Art, moving.
Yeah, that was, that was. That's right. I'm not going to do red line versions,
I don't think we need them.
right? I'm just going to do new versions unless you want a red line.
Yeah,
No.
that's fine.
And I'm just sending it to Brian.
Perfect.
Brian,
Yeah, that's right.
just bear in mind, open meeting, he can distribute stuff with no discussion.
Right.
Outside the meeting.
Yeah, we don't email each other.
Okay. Nadia, this minimum expansion thing, do you want to take that up tonight?
I would like to. I mean, the primary, that's really the only change to that whole article is to add in a minimum expansion. The rest of the formatting is really to make everything fit. And what we had before was we had edited the heck out of that thing. So I took all of the redundant language and turned it into a table because I thought that was easier to express.
Is the notice of this meeting, is 951 listed?
And for next week?
No, for tonight.
For tonight.
For tonight, it's listed as we're taking up fall town meeting articles.
That's how they've all been.
All right, Brian said that they were listed.
They've never been
Not on the
listed.
agenda.
They're listed in the document that we all just.
They're definitely listed in the document that we were circulating.
Yeah.
So it is a part of the public documents for this
Yeah.
meeting.
Okay.
That's
All
the
right.
document you have in your hand is the packet, the public packet.
Okay, so anything that's not here is not to be discussed tonight.
There is nothing other than this. This is it.
There actually is one or two things that Brian and I have talked about that needs cleaning up also. But we won't touch those tonight then.
Oh, items you wanted to add into.
Well, just for, not for discussion, but for future information, 958 after the site plan criteria says, effect, in the event the Board of Appeals approves a special permit under these provisions, blah, 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 blah. Well, it doesn't mean special permit, it means site plan.
No, jeez.
Not following, special permit is wrong.
We'll change it.
But it's not, Brian said that wasn't noticed for this meeting.
Nope.
So we
It
can't-
wasn't.
First I've heard about it.
Okay, so for a future meeting.
For
All
future
right,
meeting.
now on this one, though, on 951, we just reorganized it, all right? And we created a new 951A, the waiver, and we reorganized we took old 7 and made it the waiver. So if I were starting from scratch, I'd say, yeah, your table makes sense, but starting from what we just did with town meeting last time, I might like to do less violence to the existing version.
Okay, it just seemed that we have, the problem I saw was that we then had to add the language to every single section. So we essentially have all of the, I don't have it in front of me, but if we look at the original numbers.
Oh, I see what Art's saying, though. I agree with Art. Just,
Well-
even if it takes up room, just throw in,
Well, I mean, ordinarily I'm a fan of, doing it right.
right. No, but you're right, Art.
And if you feel strong about it, it's not a legal call.
No.
If you feel strongly about it,
No,
you're going to
it's
take the
how
lead.
it's perceived at town meeting. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I just think that it makes personally, I think that it makes our
Too soon.
bylaws more complicated if we continue to cut and paste all of the items and just append them, and that's essentially what we did. when we added things to it last time, we essentially just, we now have 5 things. The only thing that's different is a single number for each of the different zones. So.
I still think
I
Art's
don't want to touch
right.
this section again for years, so.
Yeah, but even so, it's,
I mean-
maybe you don't, maybe that's, we might someday in our your lifetime, not mine, your lifetime, see just a whole revision of this whole zoning bylaw, and that's when, I mean, I've been around long enough to see a whole recodification, so
Sure,
it'll
but
come
one
back.
of the things we talked about is as we touch parts of the bylaw, we strive to improve language.
That's right.
It's a political call.
And we know that.
It's a political call. I don't think, I mean, I said my piece. I will let the board
Well,
decide.
I guess Betsy Krieger is an old long-term member. Heather, you're relatively new. Heather Hannon, you've not seen town meeting, but this all was fairly new. And I think just going into it this way really could just...
Yeah, you want to make sure you're pretty firm on your feet.
Well, okay. I mean,
You know.
So your goal is that the minimum, you were adding the minimum expansion, that you, if you exceed your square footage by 150%, you are also picked up by site plan.
I'm all in favor of it. I think we all
if
agreed we need
If
that.
you have a 2,000 square foot house
Yeah,
and you want to build another 2,000 square foot house on the end of it, you have to come in for site plan. Actually, if it's above 3, if the
Three is
total-
my math.
If the total one is 3,000, then you have to come in.
yeah.
The idea is that you can't take what was designed to be a relief for people who were on non-conforming lots so that they could build small additions. You cannot use that to
Build.
graft on
Right.
a large structure.
Which we've actually seen like 2 or 3
We have
instances
seen
of.
that. They went through the ZBA, they got shut down by the ZBA because they were looking for a demolition and rebuild. And then they came in and they found this, I'll call it a loophole in our zoning bylaws, which is supposed to help people not permit this sort of activity. So
So can we just do it as a new bullet?
we have to give it to, we can't just do it a new bullet, we have to apply it to each
3
of
times.
those.
I'm fine with that, yeah.
Well, you're fine with it, yes.
Well,
How
let's
does
just-
the rest of the board feel?
I think it'd be clear at this point, if we go forward with just adding the minimum expansion on the 3 points, and at a different time, cleaning it up and saying there's no change, it's just the way that it's written, so
Right,
it's easier.
it's
to
really
understand.
easy. In fact, we've
It's a
gone back.
two-step process.
Okay, you've got 3.
2-1, we have.
No, you've got
The
3.
chart would be new, we'd add the chart.
No.
No,
No.
we come back, so we do a 2-part process. So the first part would be get this language in, because this is what we're trying to, the second part would be come back to the next town meeting and say, okay,
We've
now we're
done
going to
those.
clarify this, and we're not making any changes to the
Yeah.
content, we're just making it easier for
Even in
people to
recent,
understand.
yeah, even recently, we've gone back to town meeting and said there are no changes, it's just rewritten to make it,
Good.
it's a
let's
lot
just-
easier
so
to
do
do
we have
that.
do we have at least one more vote? So we
You've got
can go through
3.
it.
I don't know.
That's
To
it.
add this 150% under.
So let me lay out the choices. Choice number 1 is what Diab has done here. Choice number 2 is to not strike 4, 5, and 6. Take out this table, and in each of 4, 5, and 6, it would say new construction or expansion of one or more buildings resulting in either A, floor area equal or greater to 6,000 square feet, or B, expansion of at least 150%, parentheses including garage and floor, blah, 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 blah. That either A or B will be put into 4, 5, and 6.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then you just,
And then all of new 4 with its table and its 1 and 2 below that don't happen. That's the other choice.
Yeah.
In other words, the content of what's before us, nobody's proposing to change. We like
Right.
but it's just formatting.
You know, let me just bring you the original so you can see it's a little.
No, I understand, I like the idea of cleaning it up, but I have no context for that.
Right.
Issue
It
explained,
is.
so.
So why not, let's just add it to
Move.
the original language. and-
Right. Move along, look at the minutes, say goodbye to Art.
well, I think one of the main things we've been talking about, and now that Art's here, can actually hear us say it, is there is a tremendous amount that needs to be cleaned up in the zoning.
Exactly.
And we've been waiting for
He knows.
council to come in and tell us all the
Emphasis.
errors and mistakes in it and
Well,
clean
the
up.
problem is,
money.
No, well, that may be the problem, but the problem.
Don't take it away.
People just want the bylaw cleaned up. As soon as you touch it, you're into policy discussions.
Yeah.
That's right.
And we've had this in our other towns.
That's right.
We can't just redraft.
Well, let
It's
me
very
throw
little we
this
can touch
out.
without implicating some issues
I
we
would
do actually
say,
have to decide.
to follow up with Art's, yeah, but hang on, folks. We're working on a master plan. There will be all sorts of things that come out of the master plan. After the master plan is voted and adopted by your Winchester Planning Board, at that point, we will, I think that, to me, is number one, is to revisit the zoning.
Then you got a whole rezoning and planning process.
And then you have to go through if there were more recodification, and
The
that
problem
page
is
just make sure
you
that everything's
can't-
brought
so-
in properly. Yeah.
You can't just have a policy discussion of this section, and that section, and that section, and then people start, rightly think, no, we gotta look at the whole thing. We
Right.
can't do this piecemeal.
Yeah, that's true, because
So-
you're
so
liable to find.
Council can't just come in and clean it up with you.
Oh, it's not a policy thing.
We were process.
It's the issue like you noted in 9.5.8.
That's an easy one.
Going through it and making sure that those issues, or that this isn't reading clear at all. We need to
But why do
put it
that
in
if
a, we need to put in
Yeah.
a chart like this, or.
There is a
But if we're gonna redo it.
2
all
years
as a
from
master
now,
plan,
let's go
Well,
with
we're-
this.
That's still quite a ways out.
Yeah,
That is really quite a ways out.
I see the cleanups that Art, you and
Yeah, well,
Brian
that's
spoke of
different.
offline that we aren't going to discuss. Those are ones which I think we should go forward
Of
with.
course.
Because they remedy actual errors
Yes.
in the
That's
text.
different. They're at
That's
it.
what I'm looking for.
So that, I think we're okay doing.
Because
Because they're solved, yeah.
Okay.
And making it things more consistent, I think is we have to keep, we're going to be using this thing until we get it revised, so maybe we'll get it.
Do you want to do minutes?
Okay, so, so we will vote on cleaned up language on this when we get next week.
Yes.
So I think we are done with that part.
Yeah. Look forward to seeing that on our agenda next week.
And that has been, like I said, it has gone out into the notice, so we're good on that.
So I'm going to redraft 9.5.1 to just insert in each of 4, 5, and 6. That was the choice you just made?
Yes, that was the
Okay.
choice.
And minimum expansion, 150% of gross floor area?
I don't have that.
Or just floor area is what 4, 5,
I
and
believe
6
it's
is.
the total, the intent is that if the proposed area is greater or equal to 150% of the existing area.
Floor area.
Well, I believe it is floor area.
Well, that's the way 4, 5, and 6 currently read.
Yes, it's supposed to be exactly the same,
Okay.
yeah. It is using the same unit of measure.
Okay. And then 9.5 stage the same. 9.5. Okay, so here's the back.
Thank you. Just have a number of things.
Yes.
There you go.
So I think we're good. Thank you very much.
So I will get these to Brian, I think. You need to talk about the one rezoning parcel.
Yep.
And the board is delegating to you and Brian and me to put this in final form?
Yep.
Leave letters.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent.
Yes, please.
Sounds good.
Good. So that formally ends that part.
5 after 10.
Well, the next
Do you
on
want-
our agenda are meeting minutes.
Do you want to wait?
And I will have to admit that I have not had a chance to read them. So
Well, let's do that.
let's do it at our next meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ha! We're going to beat you out of here. Watch me.
Good night, Winchester.
Thank you, Winchester.
Thank you much.
You'll get out first. I'm not going to race you.